don't eat Honeycrisp apples before watching this.
Most apples have been grown for sugar content. Look at some of the labels. Sugar bee apple. Now, that ought to tell you what's in there.
Sugar.
How about a honey crisp apple?
Honey?
That ought to tell you what's in there. But
Sugar.
if you're in the apple section, grab some crab apple. One bite is going to tell you they're pretty doggone bitter. They have more of what you're actually looking for, which is the polyphenols, and these make a great addition to salad. Avocados are really one of the best foods that you can eat.
I'm gonna pause.
Almost pure fat and fiber, and it's fiber that your gut buddies love.
And it's good fat. Hold on.
You will actually lose weight by eating avocados.
I'm going to go eat some more avocados right now, actually. I'm starting today's show off with today's sponsor. And it's another one of the good ones where, like, this is good stuff to watch. I've actually watched this video more times than I care to admit because I don't really like eating apples. I like eating avocados, and I like the positive reinforcement to eat as many avocados as I want. And spoiler alert, I guess, or warning, you can eat too many avocados, or at least you can also give a baby too many avocados because it will, in fact, affect BMs. That being said, you may have noticed we're starting off today's stream with the sponsor of today's stream. Speaking of digestive issues, this is caused by a potential toxin that's in all of the quote-unquote healthy foods. Did you notice, I saw this on Joe Rogan, that some of the fruits have been so modified today that they're even too sweet to feed to zoo animals? It's amazing. Science has been telling us about, the food pyramid has been rubbish. We've all known this from it. It's been not even rubbish, but a scam. And gut stuff is now what we understand to be like an interplay between the brain and the gut. So there's a new toxin. This potential toxin causes digestive issues, according to Dr. Gundry, a world-renowned cardiologist. This is affecting millions of people nationwide. Warning signs include weight gain and fatigue and digestive discomfort and stiff joints, even skin problems. Dr. Gundry explains these side effects are often mistaken for normal signs of aging because digestive issues develop usually over a matter of years and sometimes even decades. I can assure you that the damage is probably liked by these so-called healthy foods rich in sugars. An apple a day no longer keeps the doctor away, people. It's far from normal. The good news is you can easily help fix the problem from your own home. It's very simple. You just have to know which foods are actually healthy and which contain this hidden potential toxin. Go to the website. It's in here. Let me see here. I put it in the link, but it's called gutcleanseprotocol.com/Viva so that they know from whom you are coming to watch what is good for your gut and what is bad for your gut. And take it from someone who's had IBS, at least that's what the doctors told me since I was 16 years old. Gutcleanseprotocol.com/Viva. Viva. After years of research, Dr. Gundry has decided to release an informational video to the public, free and uninterrupted, showcasing exactly which foods you need to avoid. Some of them will actually, I say, surprise you. I don't want to sound too dramatic. Some of them will not surprise you. Avocados, any excuse to eat avocados is a good one. Good morning, people. You wake up in the morning and you say, like, we're going to talk about Miss Pageant, that it's not really Miss America Pageant. It's National American Miss Pageant. Speaking of gut and healthy guts and unhealthy guts, people missing the controversy, or in England, as they say, the controversy of the Miss Alabama being celebrated according to this pageant, morbidly obese, and people, missing the point. Oh, it wasn't Miss America Pageant. That was never the point. Also, you have Miss Maryland, who is a male. And so what we are witnessing, it's nothing shy of what I now appreciate to be cultural Marxism. And speaking of cultural Marxism, before we bring in our guests, we were going to start talking about these things, and we will still talk about them, but it was going to be like sort of not a vapid, gossipy day. But I was concerned. And it's turning into something much better than that, because we've got Jeremy McKenzie in the backdrop. I see him right now. Chase Geiser from InfoWars in the backdrp, but I think I'm going to see that video until he's able to come on after his episode of InfoWars. Jeremy McKenzie, for those of you who don't know, Diagolon. Let me get hey, Diagolon, people. Check this out. Can I wear this now, Jeremy? Is this still, this one might not get me in trouble now. You're going to get the latest news from Jeremy McKenzie. His charges have been stayed after the torture that they put you through the process up in Canada under Justin Trudeau's regime. His charges have been stayed. So we're actually going to talk substance today. But, we're going to get to the what I call now and what I appreciate to be cultural Marxism. And I had no idea that I was actually espousing a white nationalist view when talking about cultural Marxism. This is from the Southern Poverty Law Center. Cultural Marxism catching on. When is this from? August 15, 20. Oh, this is old, 2003. A conspiracy theory with an anti-Semitic twist. This is so beautiful. I have to see if they've updated this at all. You know, what started off as a conspiracy theory with an anti-Semitic twist is now just accepted protocol. So I had no idea that when talking about things like cultural Marxism, which is, you know, I don't know how to describe it other than creating a perpetual victim class to challenge the ruling class and whatever that means and however that metastasizes over time. Cultural Marxism. I had no idea that I was espousing a self-hating anti-Semitic conspiracy theory that is actually not exactly what we're witnessing right now, where celebrating beauty pageants or pageants and touting as, you know, a sign of progressivism to celebrate morbid obesity or to celebrate men beating women at events that are allegedly, purportedly for women. So sponsor is in the link. gutcleanseprotocol.com/Viva. Check it out. We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. McKenzie's in the backdrop. I should make sure that we're live across all platforms. For those of you who don't know who I am and you're new to the channel, Viva Fry. David Freiheit, former Montreal litigator turned current Florida Rumbler. We start on all platforms. I think we're also on Twitter now. And then we stop in a bit. Let me just see. I don't see it playing on Rumble. Hold on a second. Play. Hold on. Why it not play on Rumble? Hold on. It should be live on Rumble. I see the ad loading. I just want to make sure we're live across all the platforms where we should be live. We start on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, and vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Then we end on the commie platform that is YouTube, and we end on Twitter as well. I don't call it a commie platform, just so that we can vote with our dollars. And now I hear myself, and I'm not on the good mic. Oh, is that annoying? Jeremy, I'm going to get you on here one of these days. Default mic. That's much better. Okay. Jeremy, he doesn't tell me. Yeah, he's nodding. He's not telling me. Okay, go. Oh, he just flashed. He flashed a symbol. Let's bring him in, Jeremy. All right. Well, sorry about that beginning. Damn, stupid mic.
Yeah, I had myself muted there for a second. Glad I caught that. Is the volume too high or low, or do I need to adjust?
Up in our locals community, how is the audio? Oh man, you know, like it's we're gonna skip the trending or the superficial silly topics, although we're gonna talk about them, but we're gonna talk about the important stuff. Jeremy, it's not your first time on the channel. I think everybody should know who you are, but in the unlikely event that someone does not yet know who you are or what you've been through, who are you? You've been through other than the ring.
I hope they don't. It's not, you know, good. Is this is the volume okay?
Yeah, it's perfect.
It's perfect. Some things I don't want to. Okay, excellent. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate you having me on. I've been here a couple of times. I'm a Canadian. Well, I will classify myself as a Canadian entertainer and political activist. That's kind of what I do. I have a podcast in Canada I've been running for the last several years. I call it the Ragecast. Is kind of my online moniker is the Raging Dissident. As you can imagine, I'm not a big fan of the state in this country. Many of them around the world, they share a lot of common problems. Cultural Marxism is one of the things David mentioned earlier, which is, you know, a pretty destructive force, which is turning everything inside out. So I did nearly 15 years in the military and retired and started doing this. And I was just trying to, you know, share my opinions and be creative and have fun with it. And I got attacked by the state instead. So I've been fighting them for years now. And I've just gone through 2.5 years of a legal battle that we did succeed at every charge. So happy for that. And thank you before we get going, thank you very much to David and your audience and all the people that supported me. And you know, you guys didn't have to do that, and I appreciate that. It was a huge help. And you were actually the first guy to call me after I got out of jail. I was out on bail, and he called me. I was just checking into a hotel right outside the airport on my way back to Nova Scotia after I was released from the jail in Saskatchewan. So I appreciate everything you guys have done for me very much.
Jeremy, I don't like injustice is injustice, whether you like the object or the subject. No, the object or the victim of the injustice, but some is more unjust than others. Like, I won't draw any comparisons, but everybody who's following the stuff up in Canada knows that Dina Sharif, the professional protester, is still locked away in jail, and I don't understand how she's still in detention. But it sounds like she might have done some bad stuff to cops, and they're not particularly forgiving. But I still have questions about that. But she's a less sympathetic, as far as I'm concerned, victim of potential state abuse than you, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Untarnished reputation as a veteran. I mean, tell everybody, although they know, you were in combat in countries for a decade plus.
Yeah, well, a little bit. Not wasn't all fighting for a decade. But I spent 14 years and change in the infantry and the combat arms. A short stint in the special forces unit in 2003 till 17 or so. I joined when I was 16, 17 years old. So, it was it's a good time. I don't regret it necessarily. I mean, there's a lot of things I disagree with, and I don't think that war should have happened. I don't think any of it was. I think there's a lot of problems with that. There's a lot of crimes we're still living with today as a result of that. But the difficulty of it certainly gave me an opportunity to make myself into who I am today, and I wouldn't be who I am, and I wouldn't be where I am without those obstacles and challenges of the past in the first place. So, it's hard to.
So I mean, if this goes back to COVID. COVID hits. Raging Dissident. Was it something that you had before COVID, or you started it during COVID?
Yeah, I started before. I started around 2018. I had a little bit of a blog. I started making online videos, just being silly about some things that bothered me, like the mass immigration and the cultural change, demographic changes in the country, and the what has rapidly amped up in the last few years. But even then, there was this systematic kind of stripping away of our rights and so on. So I was kind of doing videos, commenting on these kinds of things through a humorous lens, or I tried to anyway. The left and the government didn't think it was very funny. They came after me pretty hard. That's fine. That's you shouldn't give a soldier a war to fight. When he's bored and there's nothing to do. That's now this is all I do. So, thank you to the Canadian Anti-Hate Network and Evan Balgord especially. He's created me. This is all his doing. So
what's it? Not to mention names, but the Anti-Hate Network. What's the guy's name? It's Gord is his last name.
Evan Balgord. Balgord.
Okay. So we'll back it up a little bit. COVID hits. Your podcasts get, I'll call them extreme for lack of a better word. They get intense, and I'm saying it almost tongue in cheek. When do you, then you have the trucker convoy. When do you first get into trouble with the law? It's only after the convoy, right?
Right before the convoy. So what happened was I was a small time, I still am, right? I'm just a small time voice on the internet, niche kind of Canadian. So Canada, not a big market, politics, an even smaller market, and dissident, so we've got a small, window of people here that I've been, talking to and entertaining for a while. So they didn't like it, but I didn't have much of an impact. There was a couple of viral videos I was in, though, and it landed me on police watch lists, apparently. And then in April of 2020, I did a video very, very aggressively criticizing the RCMP and their Portapique response to the mass shooting that happened in Nova Scotia. And they put me on a person of interest list, I've discovered later through legal disclosure, and started following me around after that because I made fun of them. And not even that, it wasn't just making fun of them. I was deeply critical of their decisions, their lack of communication, their tactics, like everything they did was wrong, and they promoted themselves and stonewalled journalists from asking any questions. So after that, it's that's what got them interested in having me shut up, and they arrested me a number of times. I had 5 cases and 23 charges applied to me in the span of about a year.
So actually, back it up for those who don't know. The Port-au-Pique, it's the Nova Scotia shooting. It's one of Canada's, if not Canada's, worst mass shooting.
It is, yeah.
An individual who questionable. I mean, in my community, people were asking me to do a sort of a Robert Barnes hush hush, but I mean, I've basically done it. We've talked about it at length. It's an individual who had went on a shooting spree for close to 24 hours in a police uniform, an RCMP uniform, and what we do not yet know, or do we know if it was a bona fide RCMP vehicle or one that he decked out to look like it? RCMP did not mention that this man was wearing a uniform or had one and had a vehicle. They were slow to respond to things. They by the time they released information that would have been critical potentially in saving lives, the dude had already killed more people.
Yep.
He had withdrawn $475,000 cash from a special type of bank account. What is it called? An investment?
It's one of these places that, like, police informants and agents will go to withdraw. Like, it wasn't a real bank. Like, he didn't go to CIBC and said, "Give me $500,000." He went to this
wealth management. Sorry, it's a wealth management, which is like a type of account that's not for everybody. Yeah. Withdrew $475,000 cash. So there were questions as to whether or not he was whatever we want to call an asset up in Canada. Serious questions. Trudeau, however, jumped on that mass shooting to implement even more gun laws, and
Yep.
you know, never let a good tragedy go to waste, even if you've had a hand in facilitating it. And so
Yeah.
you outed some of the not RCMP people, but you were ringing some bells or raising some
Yeah.
flags on that.
Yeah, there was a lot of holes in the story and the motives, and there's just things that didn't make sense. And a lot of people saying, "Well, what do you know what you're talking about?" Well, this is literally what I did for a living in a lot of ways. In the military, we would train for these, not a 60-year-old denturist running around shooting up a county potentially, but small groups of guys, 10, 20 guys, platoon-sized elements. There's things you do and there's things you don't do, and all the things you're supposed to do, the RCMP didn't do any of them, and all the things you never do, they did all of those things. So. It's not as if they didn't know better. They should have, and they ought to have, and they didn't do them. And then anyone that asked any questions, they stonewalled all the journalists from asking questions. They let that go for a couple of days. They kept changing their timelines, their excuses, their versions of events, and then they said, "You just no more questions at all." Instead, how about that? And then gave themselves promotions, and that's the end of it. There's never been a motive divulged. There's never been. We don't know. We don't know why, when. It just happened, and it doesn't matter. It's over now. Give us all your guns. Right on. So, put it in the Robert Pickton file of who's ever going to, we don't know, because we're the RCMP, and getting to the bottom of things isn't really our responsibility.
And so after you put the heat on the RCMP for that, that's when you start facing issues. This was during COVID, actually. It was during COVID, and then the trucker convoy happens.
Yeah.
What were the charges? I mean, so we're not going to get into the Fed talk, period, because
I don't mind. I don't mind it.
Worst Fed ever, because you spent a lot of time in solitary in jail, but
just to get you.
I'm
just trying to trick all you.
Not that. Debanked. Debanked. Life turned upside down. I won't divulge things that I'm not sure if I can, but you'll tell us all the details. What were the first charges pre convoy?
Yeah. So before the convoy, I was hanging around with some people and just living my life, doing my thing. And long story, there was a disgruntled person that was in our orbit who was a real piece of garbage. But I was a little more naive in those days and more trying to see the best in people. And even though they're a little bit, messed up, but they're friendly, and I'm trying to, they ended up feeling like they were slighted, and then decided they ended up becoming the chief witness in 4 or 5 of these cases against me with the police. I have a long history of being a police informant and this kind of stuff. So they had decided, well, they're going to get me now, and then just told them a pile of stories. And so the police started, raiding my house and took all of my firearms and equipment, all of it which was legal, but they just said that it wasn't, because then I have to fight 2.5 years later to get to the point where it's about to go to trial, and I had to hire weapons experts and all these people to come in and test these and be like, yeah, these are totally legal. There's nothing wrong with any of this. So then the police go, oh geez, whoopsie daisy, and we have to abandon the case. And there was a lot of other really greasy stuff going on, like potentially they planted evidence, they're fabricating evidence, they're destroying evidence. Like there was a lot of really. Anyway, that case didn't go. So that one was defeated. I think earlier in the year, in the March, I think that one was done. There was again this person again. I told them off, and they took that. That's criminal harassment, because they, I've phone records of them calling me saying, "I'm calling the cops and putting them on you. You're done now." So I have all this, and I'm playing this for them. I'm like, this is. They don't care. So that it's a train wreck. And then you've got an angry ex-girlfriend and a scorned people, and they're all trying to get me arrested. And it's they come and get me in. Oh, my phone's ringing. Sorry. They come to get me in Nova Scotia for a national countrywide warrant in Saskatchewan for a 266 assault charge, which is a common assault. It'd be like if I poke somebody in the chest or spit on the shoe or bumped into them, that's technically assault, right? That warranted a Canada-wide warrant, so they sent 5 cops in their own plane to come get me in Halifax. I spent 6 days in solitary in Halifax waiting for them. They have 6 days to come get you, so they made sure they waited the appropriate time. Came and got me, hauled me out there, and another few weeks in solitary there, and I'm denied bail, and I'm in jail, I think, almost 3 months there before I was able to extricate myself with a good lawyer, because I didn't have one at the time. I had to, fortunately, Karima Syed came to view the bail hearing and saw how unusual it was, and connected me with Mr. Foda, and he, I think he took some pity on me. I think he recognized some things about. I mean, we don't share every opinion, or we're not best friends or anything. And, ideologically we're different people, of course. But he's like, I like fighting for the underdog, and I don't like seeing it when I think the government is stepping on people, because for his background, and he had friends growing up, that's something that he'd seen happen before. So he's like, I'll take it. I'll take all your cases for half the price. You know, do you want to, like, I'll take them all down. You know, we'll fight them all. So, you know, I considered it. I had a bunch of other lawyers to call. I hung up the phone. I'm in the range in the gang. They put me in the gang range in the prison with like murderers. And you know, they asked me like, what gang do you belong to? I'm like, nothing. I don't. And they put me in with these guys. I hang up the thing and go back into the range where they're watching, you know, usually hip hop and rap music and stuff. And it's Rock the Casbah is on TV. You remember that old the Clash song? And one of the part of the chorus is Sharif don't like it. That's the lawyer's name is Sharif. So I was like, well, that's interesting. So I hired him, and he had a great sales pitch. He did an excellent job, and then we ended up knocking everything down one after the other, and in a pretty methodical, strategic fashion. Like, it wasn't just a willy-nilly. You've got 5 cases in 3 provinces, but they're all connected to each other. You see, it's not individual. Like, it's a lot of the same people. It's the same police agencies, the same cops in many cases. Like, so it's all, besides the one that we just defeated, which was the protest outside Dr. I mean, I hesitate to call him a doctor, but I suppose Robert Strang's house. That one didn't, but the other 4 were all basically the same people. So
it's unbelievable. So you had your common assault charge in Saskatchewan, for which you were picked up in Nova Scotia, put in solitary for 2 weeks, shipped across the country. We talked about it during one of the interviews on a plane with armed guards and whatever. You testified before the Rouleau Commission from that jail, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and before that, because there was a lot of confusion about that too, because at the time, my lawyer didn't want me to testify because he's like, you're facing 5 potentially jury trials, or at least 3 of them, or 3 or 4 are potentially, you know, jury trials. And he's like, you know, they could make any number of things. They're going to ask you about all the anti-hate articles. You're going to, like, if you say something wrong, like, it's not in your interest to do this, right? For obvious reasons. And so I'm like, well, I wanted to testify because I was very confident I could deliver. I wasn't afraid of these people. And so we thought, well, here's what we'll do. Because they know that the law is too. And they expect that I'll probably do this. So he's like, what we'll do is we're going to tell them I don't want to testify because of protect my rights and blah, 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 which will signal weakness and make it appear as though, you know, I'm unwilling to do this, which they immediately did. They doubled down and said, oh no, he has to. And they overrode, they threw out my rights and waived my rights to not testify. So they forced me to do it, thinking I was going to come in, you know, I don't want to. I had Morgan ship one of my suits out there. I got all shaved up and cleaned up, and it didn't go well for them at all. And then after that, the media has rarely said my name even once. But 2 weeks prior to that was every day. Oh, we got the terrorist leaders on the stand on Friday.
Founder of Diagolon.
Yeah, we got them now. You're going to see all the evidence is going to come out, and you're going to hear it all. And it was just humiliating for them. And, you know, that was the end of that. And it really turned around after that. I got bail out of jail shortly after that. And it's just been pretty much the constant march back as the Russians pushing, you know, east into Berlin from that point forward, pretty much.
Assault charges dropped or stayed or withdrawn? I mean, technically.
I think maybe all of them were stayed.
Okay. So the assault, you had the gun charges, which everyone ran with. That's how they publicly smear someone. Like, oh, he's facing gun charges. And then the most recent to be dropped. Let me bring up the CBC article, because not often it happens, but you're still guilty, by the way, even by the way they're phrasing it. Judge throws out charges against pair accused of harassing Nova Scotia chief medical officer. Judge rules it took too long to bring Diagolon founder Jeremy McKenzie and Morgan, I don't know those are last name, Guptill to trial. Yeah. So this was the case where you were protesting outside the doctor's home, and with a group of other people. And from what I understand, unless I'm mistaken, you and now I know we're like Guptill. Jesus, what's her first name? Morgan. Sorry about that. No, I'm an idiot. Just total brain fart. You were the only 2 who were arrested or charged with stalking and harassment.
That's right. Yeah, we were there it was 3 days long. It went on for these protests, and there was a dozen cops there the whole time from the get-go. And even before we went there, I had some hesitation about it. And I'm like, are you sure? And she had already done this. Morgan had been there before with a police liaison officer that said, listen, as long as you do these things, it's totally legal. It's fine. Just, you know, so we knew what the rules were. And she showed me the photos. Like, yeah, we've done this before. So I was like, oh, fair enough. Okay. And the police were there, and they didn't say anything. They didn't say what you're doing is illegal. If you don't leave, you'll be arrested. You have to stop it. They didn't say anything. They just stood there and watched us. So this goes on for a couple of days. until either old Bobby Strang or somebody called up and wanted something done with it, and it came out through disclosure, which they lied about. They said didn't happen, doesn't exist, and there's no evidence of this whatsoever. The Premier's office, one of his right-hand guys, Ian Burke, who's the chief of provincial corporate security, is calling shift managers, he's calling police officers directly and saying, I'm working for the Premier and he wants to know what's going on with this and why isn't this happening. He goes to our bail hearing to meet with our prosecutors to discuss our bail conditions on behalf of the Premier of Nova Scotia, Tim Houston. And it's a farce. The whole thing is a shit show. So they wanted us to be made examples of is what happened. And like you said, there was a dozen other people there. None of them, they were all the police knew who all these people were, but they didn't arrest any of them. They were told to come and get us specifically. And I said from the beginning to my original lawyer, and then further, I want to see all the communications they have. I want with my name in it. They said, oh, there's nothing like that. That doesn't exist. This was just a routine police operation. I said, bullshit. I want to see your internal emails and your communications. And they said, oh, there is nothing. It doesn't exist. Meanwhile, we had already FOIPOP'd this. So I'm already in possession. I'm already holding these emails from the Crown Prosecutor's Office, the Department of Justice, Ian Burke. They're all talking to each other about this. I've got the report from the Chief Firearms Officer who says he's not involved. He's just in it. If the third party, like he has to come, right? Because he's presiding over the firearms licenses. This is his job. And he has to write a review of why mine is going to be denied for reissue or extension or whatever, right? And he said, well, and at the end of his summary, he's like, I met with Ian Burke, I met with the prosecutors and the DOJ at the courthouse for the bail hearing to discuss the bail conditions, blah, blah, blah. So I already have all this. While I'm asking them for this information, I want it officially just goes through court channels, and they say it doesn't exist. There's no such thing. So they're lying. And like, this is just going on and on. And that journalist, Richard Cuthbertson, he didn't show up for any of this. They showed up the last day for the judge's ruling to say there was no political interference. That's the only thing he was interested in printing, because this was he was told to come down there so they can cover the Premier's ass. He's got an election coming up. So the reason this, I think, dragged out for as long as it did, they had no interest in prosecuting this. As you can say, the judge ruled that it took too long. Why did it take so long? My lawyers, were from over a year and a half ago saying, you're taking too long. We want to go to trial. Let's go. Give us the disclosure. Let's go.
Give us the disclosure. That's the issue, is they're actively concealing information from you. In this particular case of Strang, was it?
They waited a year.
Waited a year. And was there not some issues, evidence before the court of destruction of evidence, or at least concealment of exculpatory evidence?
Yes, well, that's some of these communications we were talking about that they said didn't exist when they in fact did exist, and they lied to the judge. Dr. Strang is having lunch. He comes in, gets sworn in, does his testimony.
Tell the people who Dr. Strang is. Just I think we mentioned.
He's the chief medical officer of Nova Scotia. So
he's
like
the guy. I'll pull up a
Bonnie
couple
Henry.
of videos. Yeah, he's the one. I believe he's the one who commented on the injunction to prohibit public gathering protests to protest the lockdown measures. I think there's a couple of very funny videos out there, which I'll find afterwards. But he's the CMO, so he's like the Theresa Tam of Nova Scotia.
Yeah,
or
he was
like
on the stand. Yeah, he was on the stand for almost 4 hours and was screaming at my lawyer, telling him he's not asking the right questions and what he should be doing, and it was hysterical. No journalists were there to see that. For some reason, Richard Cuthbertson wasn't interested. He wasn't interested to see the staff sergeant of the RCMP, Erica Pinn, say, it's my job to shut down protests. That's what her job is. That's what she said under oath. Like, it's just, days and days and days of this, to then finally, they just gaslight, and the judge says, oh, there's no evidence of any of this, and there's no political interference at all, which, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, but I think you would know as a lawyer, and the way it was described to me by several lawyers, including mine, is that you can't prove political interference. Like, if you're a police officer and I'm a governor, and I say, I hope something gets done about these protesters pretty soon, and you just take it upon yourself to be more aggressive with it. We can't measure how that impacted in your head if you decided to act more aggressively because I said it or not. We don't know. But if there's evidence of that conversation happening, it's the appearance of political influence, and that's all it takes. If there's if it can be made to look like that does appear to be what may be happening, that's all that's required. And people that work directly for the Premier of Nova Scotia, calling shift supervisors, going to bail here, like just really inserting himself into a justice process that he has no business being in. What would you call that? I think that's nakedly on its face. It's a slam dunk as far as I'm concerned. And they acted like, oh no, this is totally normal. It's not normal, but Nova Scotia is a very corrupt province, and CBC, does the dirty work for them, as they always have.
Well, they are paid by the very government that they're supposed to be investigating. It's a no-brainer for corruption. Have you gone through the correspondence that you've obtained through your FOIPOPs on your own channel, in your own community?
No, not on mine, not extensively. No, not yet. We were just kind of we couldn't, not until the trial and everything was done. But this just expired a few days ago now.
Well,
so.
now the problem is staying the charges. In theory, they could revive them if they so choose.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
look, so you got, everybody knows this as well. You got debanked, and that's where I really had my issues in terms of debanking and not even being able to get a bank account. You got debanked on the basis of some of these charges, right? That was the as far as
I was never given an explanation. They just called me one day. I think what happened was, well, a little bird told me that there was some movement in the Conservative Party that was making sure I was getting, dragged as much as possible, particularly the provincial Conservatives here, but maybe more. And I don't know. I had a call. I had issues with some Veterans Affairs stuff. I had insurance problems. I had in the bank. This was all in the same week, so I feel like some calls were made. It's very unlikely all these institutions independently of themselves decided we should shut this guy down all at the same time. So they just called and said, yeah, we have to terminate your banking relationship. And I said, why? And they're like, well, we just are. And there's no redress. They don't have to give you a reason. They don't have to explain. They just say you've got 30 days to get your affairs in order, and then we don't have any business anymore. And they told me if you ever come into a Scotiabank branch location again, you'll be arrested. So
added to it's so freaking wild. So debanked from one bank, and then you also found out that you could not be rebanked with any other major institution.
I'm trying now. I'm trying to get I'm poking around some other ones. I don't want to say which because for obvious reasons. But yeah, they we'll see. I tried like RBC, TD. They're like no. Like within applying, they were like no. They wouldn't give me a passport. I applied for a passport before I was even charged, and didn't get back to me. I paid for a 48-hour, like the 24-hour turnaround. You pay like $400 or something. And I don't hear from the passport office. I call them numerous times. I don't hear from them again for almost 10 months later, 8 months later, when I'm in jail in Saskatoon. And they said, yeah, we can't give you a passport because you're in jail. So, okay, that's totally normal. Like, yeah, 2 days, 8 months. Sure. It's very convenient for you. So I don't
Jeremy,
know.
Here, what we're going to do. But actually, before we'll tie the nice bow and then we'll start talking about other stuff. And you'll tell me if I'm projecting. Are you fatigued a little bit by this entire process, or you look I don't know if it's like disappointed or just fucking fed up? Like what's your underlying feeling here that I think I'm picking a vibe up on?
It's you ever have a really large lawn to mow? It doesn't really feel satisfying. You're just happy it's done. It was just a chore to do that was always going to end this way. I was confident this was always going to be the end result. And pretty near as soon as I was out on bail, when I was out on bail and I had the lawyers that I had, who I talked to them a lot. They're very competent, very intelligent. They could see what was happening. And I was like, that's all you need. You need a competent, litigator to go through this, because I knew what was true and I knew what was nonsense. And I was like, there's no way this holds up. All I need is one guy that knows what he's doing, and I'll pay, and it'll fall apart. And it did. It's exactly what happened. So pretty much since I got out of jail, it was just annoying. I was on house arrest for a year. I couldn't see my kids hardly at all. I couldn't leave the province. I couldn't leave. I mean, I had to be home at 8 p.m. every night. I was on a curfew, so it was just annoying, really. But it really galvanized my spirit in a lot of ways. It didn't dissuade me at all. It actually it did quite the opposite, because if what I was doing was having no effect and of no value, why go to these lengths? Why jump through these hoops to do this? And then if you quit at the end, then just give them what you want. Let's just give them the satisfaction of pressuring you into giving up anyway. So I've got a lot more motivation and dedication to what I'm doing now. And we're going on tour here next month to be traveling the country, and we're making like a couple dozen stops. I think we've got 8 different shows and another dozen like meet and greets and stuff. So
you are currently facing 0 pending charges.
Correct. I had 23.
You are, as far as it goes, I say a free man. You don't have a passport yet. I don't know. I don't want to ask about the banking situation, but as far as criminal persecution goes, you're a free man.
It would appear that way for now. I mean,
touch wood.
Get back to me in 6 months. I'm going to go speak in public here soon, so that might be illegal as well. I mean, they're really trying to make that a thing as well. And sometimes politicians are standing next to scribbles that Morgan put on a door, and that's a national crisis too, as it was with the Conservative Party recently. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think they're going to be giving up at coming after us, but I think, as long as everybody's very careful and just, mind your P's and Q's and, just don't make it easy for them. Um, I'm not saying I did in the first place, but I was a lot less, I was a lot more naive to what the situation is and how far they'll go to hurt
Yeah,
people
dude.
just because they can. I didn't think it was as bad as it is, that you couldn't, but it is that bad, and you do have to
worse.
take it seriously. Yeah.
It's worse than we can possibly imagine. And I remember as you're testifying from jail, first of all, I've known of you for a little while. I didn't know of you during the protests, and everyone in the chat's like, why is Viva ignoring Jeremy and McKenzie? But I remember now retroactively watching some of your clips and some of your words from the protests.
Yeah.
And it was literally, keep your heads down, don't give them a reason, don't start fights, walk away from it. And as you're testifying from jail, your attorney came up and, did a great job playing these clips back. It's like, oh yeah, this is the guy that allegedly incited violence. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Jeremy, what we're going to do now that we got that news out of the way, and I want to talk to you about cultural Marxism, we're going to end on YouTube and Twitter and bring it on over to Rumble. And then when we're done here, Jeremy, okay, before we go over to Rumble, where can everybody find you? But we're going to keep talking over on.
Yeah, all my social media, you can go and find it at the website ragingdissident.com as my Telegram link, my Substack link, my whatever I'm allowed to use, which isn't much. Rumble so far, God be praised. They let me do pretty much whatever. I haven't had an issue with them yet, so but yeah, there's a few other spots, you can download it on Odyssey or like Spotify, Apple Podcasts and stuff like that. So
Twitter, not on Twitter?
No, I'm not allowed on Twitter either. I was kicked off of that.
I wish I had an in with Elon. Like I think he doesn't retweet me as much as he used to, but I'll try to get some attention on that because it makes no sense.
I even tried to, so I appealed it and it was rejected within 90 seconds.
It's like when you appeal a demonetization on YouTube and it's a 4-hour stream and like 5 minutes later, like we've carefully reviewed it and we've said,
I'm sure they did, right? It's like, no, we know. I'm like, oh, so this was manual, right? They terminated it immediately. They said it was, for hate or something. And then I tried later because some other people got reinstated. I was like, I'll try it again. And they said, this account doesn't exist. So I can't even get it reinstated because it's scrubbed. The account doesn't even exist anymore. They deleted it. So
unbelievable. All right, well, let's not give these fiends any more of our traffic. We're going to end on YouTube and Twitter and go over to Rumble and Locals. Changes nothing on our end. Boom, YouTube, we're done, and I'll post the entire stream on Viva clips afterwards. And I'm going to remove Twitter as well, just because. And now we're on Rumble and Locals only. VivaBarnesLaw.locals.com. Jeremy, cultural Marxism. So like I feel so late to the game as far as some of these things go. I remember hearing the terms cultural Marxism.
Yeah.
I remember really I studied Eastern European history and philosophy, and I understand socialism, communism as concepts, and the joke that the end goal of socialism is communism, and Marxism, which is
is it a
pity. Well, it's not a joke. Marxism is pitting the working class against the elites, and that's how you create strife or at least create a conflict for the purposes of mobilizing. Cultural Marxism. I'm struggling to understand it, but I think I do. What do you think it is?
So I think what it means is, as opposed to political Marxism, it's not overtly enshrined in policy. Like this is the law, that's the law. It's more of a soft subversion where you get. So there's a lot of institutional capture in the 60s and 70s in universities across the West where you get these radical more left-wing kind of thinking people, in universities. And why you do that is because you're capturing the future. You're not getting, it's not coal miners and electricians and, cops and stuff. They don't set government policy and become governors and mayors and sit on city councils and stuff like that. It's people with university degrees that do a lot of these things. And that's where people get law degrees, doctors, powerful people generally. They have university degrees. So that's your primary focus. And in doing this over a few generations, Yuri Bezmenov is an old Soviet defector who talks a lot about this and that was his job was to implement these kinds of programs. And over a few decades, it's you can cooking a stew, you can get there. So we went from what we had in 1950s, 60s, 70s America to what it is now, and it's been morally, ethically, it's inverted into upside down world, and that's. You can call it, is it cultural Marxism? Is it Satanism? Whatever. If you're a spiritual minded person, it's like anti-life at its root, at its core, I think. And a lot of it is the energy and spirit around it is all very destructive and spiteful towards life. It's all very pro-destruction and degeneration and bringing things down rather than uplifting people and aspiring to higher ideals and beautification and, striving to be higher. It's instead of encouraging people to raise themselves up, you take what's up and you bring it down in the name of equality. It's a pretend, it sounds good to some people, to the people that are on the bottom, but it just means everybody ends up starving to death in the end.
You can only eat the rich for so long. But so you've entered now. Canada the world is in Pride season, but Canada in particular, it's not just Pride dates. It's not Pride month. They refer to it as Pride season.
Yeah.
What have you seen in terms of the most outlandish stuff going on up in Canada?
I mean, any number of things you can imagine, but some of the real nasty stuff is not even as overt as maybe some people think. It's the subtle things like putting the pride flag up or over military bases, or having police officers wear pride uniforms and having the police cars painted in rainbow colors. Like, this has nothing to do with law enforcement or the professional capacity of our military. There's no place for this in this conversation. The military is for fighting wars and defending our people from threats, not for advertising what to do with your butt. Same thing with the police. That's not what they're for. They're there for law and order, and they're there to maintain the peace, and they're there to detect and pursue criminals, not to virtue signal to policies. And look what I like to put in my butt. Like, it has nothing to do with any of this. And if you want to do that in a cultural club or some town wants to have a festival, that's one thing. But when you bring in federal agencies and in the police and the military and stuff that are now putting these kinds of, I don't know if you want to call it an ideal, I don't, these kinds of ideas on the same level as like national defense and crime fighting, like that, they're on the same level of importance. That's insane to me.
How do I bring it back up when I'm in here? I want to bring this. No, not that way. This way, not that way. This way. Here we go. I took it out by accident. This, for anybody listening in podcast format, is from the Government of Canada's website. And it's the Canadian, I don't know how you call it, a Canadian flag. It's a maple leaf. It looks like a flag with the pride symbol. And it says pride in service. 2S LGBTQI plus Canadians in uniform. Members of Canada's 2S LGBTQI plus community have made important military contributions. They have seen pride and achievement and discrimination and persecution. Discover and recognize this important part of Canada's military history. It's so, I don't know if the word is outlandish. It's demoralizing is the word I would have for it, because on the one hand, like you say, 2S LGBTQI plus members have made important military contributions, as though, I mean, now you have to compare it to everyone in the military. It's as though to prioritize some members' fight over others on the basis of things that nobody gives a sweet bugger all about. Right. You're more tuned in than I am to this. There is a decrease in military, what's the word? Not volunteering, but participation.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The attrition rate is massive.
When they announced they announced that convoy going to I don't know if it was Normandy or France, of the 2S LGBTQI plus military, what's it called? Convoy. And people like, this is not denigrating anybody. This is lifting up others. I mean, as a veteran.
I disagree.
Well, no, tell me, because it's I know what I think, but I've never served.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like that's not what we're about. That's not what we were about. We weren't, like, that's not what any of this is for. None of this was done in the name of sodomy flags and pride parades and who can go to gangbangs and use glory holes. And it's doubly offensive to pretend like we're going to retcon history and send some delegation over to France where, generations of our young men were slaughtered and will never get back. And we're making it about butt sex. I guarantee you, actually, I have a few books I've been looking through recently about how a lot of these veterans feel about the state of the world now. It's called Unknown Warriors by Nicholas Pringle. This journalist actually put out a call to veterans across the British Commonwealth and said, how do you feel about it now? Now, it's 2006, this was published. And 95% of them, pretty much to a man and woman, said, I don't recognize my country anymore. I don't know what this is. This is horrible. We've destroyed ourselves. Like, if all those guys were around today to see what has become of this place, they wouldn't have gotten on the boats. I firmly believe that, because go look at the thoughts and the feelings, like in their own letters, their own words will tell you the story. Don't listen to me. Go listen to them. And if our own veterans aren't worth listening to, why are we listening to Rainbow Socks over here? It's to honor the gays. And no, that was never part of the, no one was fighting global wars because they were concerned about if somebody wasn't going to be able to put dicks in their mouths. Like, that was never a part of the conversation. And to reduce it to something so trivial and so stupid and is just grossly offensive. Like that's what this is about to you. World War II was about butt sex. That's what this is. Wow. Well, I'm glad all those guys are dead so they could be remembered as the people that protected drag queens exposing themselves to children in school. That's apparently what it was all about. It's ridiculous. So there's a huge divide now. I don't think these people are salvageable. They can't come back. They've gone so far off the deep end of the reservation. They don't even know what's real. They don't know they couldn't tell you what a Canadian even is, never mind what's important or what we stand for or what we used to stand for or what those people would say if they were here today. And I have a pretty good idea because their books and words are all still around and they wouldn't like any of this.
Well, I mean, my not doom pill, but black pill cynicism is that, if there were a plan to not just demoralize, but undo an entire country. I mean, this is how you do it. You promote abortion, promote euthanasia, demoralize the military so that you don't have a military while opening your borders to God knows what threats. And then say, look, oh my goodness, we can't handle it. Let's bring in some global organization to provide security because we can't do it to ourselves anymore.
It's a risk because we don't have a military. Canada doesn't have one. We act like we do, but we don't. We have maybe two best case scenario, and this was 5 years ago, so probably less now. 3,000 combat soldiers. That's not. We don't have enough men to see. If PEI decided it was going to riot and rebel, we couldn't stop them. PEI, like it's a veneer. It's pretend. It's an illusion. We don't actually have a military. The best contribution we could put into Eastern Europe to stop the Russians is 1,500 guys, 2,000 guys. They'd last about 3 hours and they'd all be killed. And that'd be the end of it. There's no one to replace them. There's no one to train the next crop of soldiers because they all just got killed in Eastern Europe. They've been doing nothing but chop the military to bits for 20 years. And now there's basically nothing left of it. Some of my old units and regiments, there's guys, a unit that's supposed to have 800, 900 men has 115 guys on parade. They're at like 10% strength. And then we're running around talking about fighting World War III with who? With what? We gave all of our weapons, all of our supplies are gone to Ukraine, all of our body armor, our ammunition. We sent artillery batteries. We're never getting those back. And, we'll just buy more. Where? Back of the line, all the factories, the few that we do have are building stuff for the Americans and the Russians and the Chinese. So everything you give away, you're not getting back for 20 years. 15 years before that gets rebuilt. All of our frag vests, our night vision, we don't have anything. We gave it all because everyone had to Slava Ukraine, and everybody knows better than we do. Everybody's smarter than I am. Well, they're the government. They would know what they're doing. So we're wide open, defenseless, and we're filling the country with millions of fighting-age men who have no allegiance to this country whatsoever, and they're being told that we're the enemy, and maybe something's got to be done about it. It really does look like we're shaping up to be in a very bad situation, especially the United States. They were coming 50,000 people a day coming across the U.S. border, mostly men of the ages, 18 to 40? For what reason? To do what? Work at, Walgreens? Like, I don't know.
If you ask the Democrat politicians, it's not even working at Walgreens. It's Jerry Nadler says, the fruits are going to rot in the fields. You ask Joel Osborne, it's about cleaning toilets. I mean, it's crazy, and I don't know how much more doom pilled it can get than that. It's almost by design. Like when Trudeau gave all the PPE to China, knowing that the pandemic was coming. And now give all your military. Jeremy.
Well, apparently we're filthy with foreign infiltration, and our own government has sold us out. There's a report going around Ottawa, and they won't say who it is because there's so many of them. Maybe all of them have sold us out to the Chinese and the Indians, because it's apparently between those two countries, our government's for sale, and there's dozens. I don't know. Is there even a number? It's quite a number of list of MPs who have either unwittingly or wittingly are helping foreign agents against us, and everyone's like, well, what can you do? Like we're basically occupied. We don't even have our own people. We're not ruling our own country. India and China is ruling our country now. And what's going to be done about this? We're going to axe the tax. No one's even talking about it in any serious way. Like I think it'll get fixed. It'll get sorted out in the end, but I don't think we're going to get there in an easy. It's not going to be a good time. It's going to be a rough go. I think the next 10 to 15 years is going to be very challenging. And that's just the position they've put us in. Like, we're on a collision course with a rough go because we had weak people making terrible decisions and weaker people that were unable to stop them. Nobody wanted to say anything. Everybody wanted to, I'm just doing my job and looking out for me, and I got to go on vacation, and I got this kind of apathy towards the community at large, the people around you, your friends and family, and how does it affect me? Well, it's going to affect you in a big way. We're going to all get affected here now, and it's all our fault because we allowed it to progress to this point. We have the government we deserve because we allowed it to get this bad.
Well, on that uplifting note, Jeremy, All right,
It'll be bad.
we will keep in touch. I am scheduled to be in Canada, so hopefully you and I will hook up. Jeremy McKenzie, ragingdissident.com, and everybody can find your links there.
Cheers, appreciate it.
Jeremy, thank you, and
sir.
Godspeed on the. Yeah, hold up. What do ring powers unite? Force.
Yeah,
of,
if we touch them together.
Oh God, there we go. Clip it, biatches.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you very much, David. I appreciate all your help and all your
pleasure.
support and your kind words and everything. And thank you to your audience for their support as well. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anytime and every time. We'll talk soon.
Cheers. Thank you.
Bye. All right. Guest number 1 and now guest number 2's in the backdrop. But before we bring him in, I noticed a couple of very colorful messages up in the Rumble side of things. And I recognize one of them. Sanico says, you both will want to read Antonio Gramsci, which is the subversion of culture, which is church, entertainment, and everything. And I'm going to get to that. And then we've got good afternoon from Anton's Meat and Eat. 10% off with code VIVA10 for your biltong on www.biltongusa.com and antonusa.com. Use this code if your purchase qualifies for free shipping. Bada bing, bada boom, king of biltong. Great to see you as always. Now, all right, we got Chase Geiser in the backdrop. Chase, you may recognize him. Let me just see if I can see this here. Well, you know him from InfoWars from Alex Jones. There's news in the Alex Jones case. There's news in the bankruptcy proceedings. We're going to talk to that. Chase Geiser has written a book about, from what I understand, his work at InfoWars. Ordinarily, I like to listen to the book before I do the interview, but didn't have that opportunity this time. So that is it. Let us bring on the man of the hour, or the man of the second man of the second hour. Chase, bringing you in 3, 2, 1. Bada bing, bada boom. Sir, how goes the battle?
Hey, it's an honor and a pleasure to be with you. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
This is basically, let me back out for a little bit so we can see there. It is called, if I'm reading it right here, it says The Rise of American Populism, and I can't read those 3 words.
Radical patriotism.
Radical patriotism. Them's fighting words, Chase.
You gotta
Chase,
lean into it.
I think everybody knows who you are, but just in the event that they don't, 30,000 foot overview, then we're going to start talking.
Sure. So my name's Chase Geiser. My background is in social media advertising, and I started a podcast after January 6th because I was upset about it being called an insurrection. And I built that podcast to the point where I was able to leverage myself into a job at InfoWars. So now I host the Sunday Night Live show on InfoWars, work for Alex Jones, and I do a number of other things behind the scenes. All
right. Now, so how long you been at InfoWars for?
1 year this month.
Okay. Congratulations. Happy anniversary. And let's go way back to the beginning, and we won't spend too much time on it, but I need to know. Born and raised, what did your parents do? How many siblings do you have? What school did you go to? What did you study, and how did you end up here?
All right. So I was born and raised in Bloomington, Illinois, which is a small town in Illinois. It's in the middle of Illinois, a lot of cornfields. And my father was a small business owner. He owned an IT company. My mother was a medical transcriptionist. I'm the youngest of 4 boys.
Hold on. Medical transcriptionist means what now?
Yeah, so like when a doctor does an autopsy, he records what he sees into a tape recorder, and she would type out what he says into the correct form for the autopsy.
Cool. And now you just said youngest of 4 boys?
Yes, I'm the youngest of 4 boys. My closest brother is 7 years older than me. My oldest brother is 17 years older than me. So I was pretty much raised like an only child just because the age gap was so large.
All from the same marriage? That's a bizarre difference of...
All from the same marriage. My parents got married when they were 23, and they had me when they were 41.
So the question is, who was the accident, the first one or the last one?
I was the accident.
All right. That's pretty wild, actually. 4 boys, and they had you in their 40s. That's amazing. Well, I can tell my wife now that she's not too old. We can have another one, a 4th, an accident.
Yeah, I'm lucky I'm not autistic.
Well, what does that have to do? I mean, okay, what are the increases of the chances of autism?
Yeah.
Or I was going to go with the maybe the jibby jab and that, or not that jab, but the other.
I would have been the next Elon Musk.
Chase. So raised all big difference. Kids are out of the house as you're growing up, and you're growing up in small town. I always get it mixed up now. You said Idaho or Illinois?
Illinois, but they're pretty much the same thing. And I went to a very small high school. I graduated 40 out of 80 in my class because I only went to school 4 days a week. They used to call me Monday because I didn't go to school on Mondays. I didn't feel like it. And I studied audio engineering and philosophy in college at Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, that's very, very, very cool. And so now what do you do leading up to, well, I guess the last 5 years or 4 years is what is impacted everybody's memory.
Yes.
What were you doing? What do we call it? BCE, before COVID era.
Before Chase was Chase.
Before COVID hits, like what are you doing in 2019 and then COVID hits and how does that morph you into who you are now?
Yeah, before that, I was doing social media advertising for small businesses.
Okay.
So I owned my own advertising business, and it was originally in California, and I brought it here to Texas. And after January 6th, I pretty much shut it down and just focused on the political stuff.
That's I imagine that it's more fulfilling. Profitable is the only only
Yeah,
indirectly related.
Money. I lost a lot of money with that decision, but it's definitely more fulfilling.
I was going to say, like, social media advertising, COVID era is like the gold rush of social media advertising.
There were some months that were insane. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into this. So you started working at InfoWars. I'm always curious as to how that works. I mean, you start working at InfoWars after InfoWars. Alex Jones has been, not persona non grata beyond that, but public enemy number one for like a decade.
Yeah.
You know that you're jumping into something controversial merely by working there. How do you even make that introduction?
Well, I had the host of the morning show on my podcast. His name's Harrison Smith. He hosts the American Journal from 8 to 11 a.m. Central on InfoWars. And after that, he invited me to come to the studio, since I happen to live in Austin, where the studio is, as a guest. And it got to the point where we became close friends. And when he was sick, or when his wife had one of their kids, he asked me to fill in as a guest host for him. And so I did 2 weeks straight as a guest host for free. And after that, I just asked them to hire me, and they agreed.
Very cool. And so, and now I guess this is the thing, like I've only, the first time I had Alex Jones on the channel, it was like sort of a life-changing decision on my end, because I thought I knew what I knew, and I knew more than most people, but I knew that most people know nothing. And they're going to say, you are literally engaging in discourse with the devil. And I've gotten to know Alex, and I've never met him in person, but I've met him digitally many, many times. And I'm listening to his book now, and I'm thinking, like, nobody could listen to The Great Awakening and think that Alex Jones is Satan incarnate. They just couldn't. I think he's
genuine with him, but he's not evil.
I think he's actually genuinely, sincerely good, although he's made some bad decisions, like most of us will do throughout our lives. What was it like? I mean, what is it like meeting Alex for the first time and actually working under him? And what is that experience like?
The crazy thing about Alex is he's exactly the same off air as he is on air, only maybe 10% more intense. He's a little bit more lighthearted off air, but at the same time, he's more intense. So I remember the first time he walked into my office, I was tucked away kind of in a corner after I started here because I was the new guy. He just started going into, it's getting crazy out there what the CIA is doing. And I'm like, oh, this is just a one-on-one. I'm getting my own personal Alex Jones show. Because that was the question that I had before I met him was, I wonder if he's actually like that or if this is an act, because it's so entertaining and it's so good when you see him do his show that you think, oh, this must be something that like a character, because it's just too good not to be a character. But no, he's just actually like that.
No, it's fair enough. I mean, it's like it's difficult to keep a persona for 5 hours a day if it's not an authentic persona. I mean, he's probably spends more time broadcast to the public than he does in private time, which has got to take its toll. Okay, now let's get into the book, I guess. Then you write a book called First of all, you wrote a book. Have I asked you how old you are?
I am 33. 33,
l'âge de Jésus, as we say in Quebec. That's the age of Jesus. Is it a bad thing to say? Like, should I not say that?
Just French. It's just French.
No, but I'm wondering. It's not. I think it's a good thing, not a bad thing to say. But although it was the year that he died, so maybe it's not a good. Okay, look, I'm not cursing.
The same year.
I'm not cursing anything. Maybe I'll have to check.
Was it really a sacrifice or a long-term investment? I mean, he's king of the universe.
It's what I think is the most amazing thing every time I think about the Bible and the origins of Christianity is whatever you feel about Jesus, a historical figure who was so beloved that his death was so traumatizing that even if you're a non-believer of religion, people needed to believe he would come back because he was so beloved. I can't imagine what that, how that happens. It's amazing. It's an amazing thing. Tangent. 33 and you wrote a book. That was how we got into this. How do you decide to sit down and write a book?
So I started writing this book actually before I started working in InfoWars. This was something I was writing from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. on late nights after doing podcasting stuff or taking care of social media clients as a passion project. I thought I was going to self-publish. I made the decision to write it after I had about 100,000 followers on Twitter. I thought maybe this is a big enough audience where I could, create something that people would be interested in. And over the course of, I probably only put about 80 hours into this book, to be honest with you, because it is just like a stream of conscious rant. And it's very impassioned. It's meant to be inspirational and to inspire populist sentiment, patriotism, and sort of enlighten people as to who the real culprit is of our problems, I term that culprit broadly as the political class, and decrease division between the right and the left at the people level, at the populist level, and inspire people to actually stand up and do something and activate them in this time.
Do I ask for too much information that might not necessitate people reading the book?
Go ahead.
Okay,
Go
well,
ahead.
so I mean, it's an interesting. I mean, the idea that the political class are the problem, and I don't think anybody with half a brain can disagree with that. And the political class is like sort of the modern day. I don't say like managerial class or elitists, but
Sure.
The idea is there is undoubtedly the desire to sow discord among the people, and that divided people are easy to rule. How the hell do you go about trying to have any common ground with an ideology that, you know, supports something that there's no gray zone on, let's just say child genital mutilation? The question is this: do these very vocal, what I believe, minorities reflect a broader sentiment? And if they do, is the broader sentiment one that is based more on ignorance than genuine belief in what the vocal extremists purport to be the broader sentiment? I don't know if that was clear.
Yeah, this book is much less tolerant than that. So I know populism has a connotation of, oh, you know, we're the people, we should all be one. So anybody who would advocate for genital mutilation of children or anything like that would be just classified as a leftist member of the political class in this book. So it's a little bit more hardline, right? Even
Good.
if you're not
Well, no.
elected, right? That you've fallen for the leftists. You're part of the problem. So it doesn't tolerate it. This is just it makes a claim in an aesthetically provocative way that Western culture is superior, regardless of immutable characteristic. It has nothing to do with race or anything like that, right? It's superior, and anybody who denies that can I use bad words in your show? Get the fuck out.
Dude, you just said Western culture superior. Yeah. That's worse than any swear word.
Western culture is superior, and anybody who doesn't like it can get the fuck out. That's the book.
Okay, so well, this is, and it's an amazing thing where it's called, what's it called? Cultural chauvinism, to say that Western culture.
Western chauvinism, yeah.
Western chauvinism. The idea that enlightened principles of humanity, intellect, philosophy, that's not, I'll just take an easy one, not cannibalism out of Papua New Guinea. Like, okay. Yeah. That is the most clear-cut ends of the spectrum. You know,
right.
Descartes' philosophy of what makes a man versus Papua New Guinea eating invaders. Okay, we can agree there's no cultural relativism here to say, well, who are we to judge that culture? It's black and white. Then you get the gray zone, which is where all the fighting starts. But let's just actually stick into the black and the white. Child genital mutilation, gender-affirming care, part of the problem, period, full stop.
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Men competing in women's sports, part of the problem, period, full stop.
Part of the problem.
Okay.
Period, full stop.
Let's go with, now, is there the gray zone on abortion, regardless of how you feel about it? If you think it's terrible, but a necessary evil up to a certain point, we can say late-term abortion without, I can't really think of any sort of attenuating medical circumstance, but late-term abortion, you support it, part of the problem, black and white.
Yeah, so the book doesn't talk about that specific issue, but I would tell you that I'm just against it altogether all the time. Personally. Yeah,
this reminds me of the philosophical argument I had back in the day with 5 women at McGill at a house party on a Friday night, where without taking a position on abortion, I was just saying it is, whether you like it or not, to some extent taking pleasure or deriving absence of pain from terminating a life, whether even you think it's a human life or not.
Right.
And I did not know that I was having a discussion with women who had a very close experience with it. This is why you don't discuss religion or politics at parties, but luckily, I don't go to parties anymore, so I get to do it all day long. What are some of the other black and white ones that you might be able to list offhand?
Man, that's difficult for me to suggest just on the fly like that. I
mean, it doesn't matter. So forget it.
Here's the deal. The left, what they do, what the left does is they marry immutable characteristics and identity to ideals. So punctuality, for example, is suddenly like a white thing, right? And I don't know, being late is for people who, what's the term that they use now?
It's a terribly racist term. Hillary Clinton used it. It's, I don't even know if I don't even want to say it because it will be clipped. It's a 3-letter acronym, and it has to do with the time that certain people follow who are stereotypically late. She actually said it once upon a time. And the idea that punctuality is a white supremacist trait, anybody who says that is I would say an incorrigible racist, period.
Well, I mean, wouldn't it be better to be white supremacist then if it meant that you were going to be on time?
It depends where you want to go. If you want to go to hell, no, you'd want to be as late as possible.
So the point that I try to make here is values are values. They're not connected at all to immutable characteristics, and to deny a value its value because it's fake association with immutable characteristic is to cheat reality and truth and all that is good, right? So this makes a very strong case for Western culture being superior, at least so far. I'm not saying that there's not something that would be better down the road, but it totally disassociates identity in the way that we think of it colloquially from these ideals.
Well, let me throw a wrench in your spokes there, having not read the book.
Do it.
What if the ultimate end of Western values and Western culture is what Gadsad refers to as a suicidal empathy of destructive progressivism? In which case, someone's going to say, "Well, look, like I was talking with Jeremy just before, and he's like, if those men and women who stormed the beaches of Normandy were to see what their sacrifice of blood and death would have led to, would they have done it? If the end goal, if the heaven of Western culture is this self-destructive progressivism, maybe it's not the most."
So you think that people stormed the beach in Normandy because they wanted to sacrifice themselves for their country?
I've gotten very cynical at this point in time where I've gotten very cynical where I can question everything that I've ever taken as a historical fact. And it's not to say that, and there's no but to this, it's not to say that Hitler was not the historical monster that he was. It's the flip side to that all governments have proven themselves to be historical monsters. And I do believe. Do I believe that Hitler would have gone on a we'd be speaking German if we didn't get involved in World War II, as the cliche goes? I'm not sure anymore. Do I think that the Western governments were any cleaner than Stalin or Hitler? I'm not sure anymore. I mean, when you're selling arms to both sides until you have no choice but to stop doing that, although you continue doing it, I'm not sure what's more evil, the tyrants or the tyrant enablers. So you tell me what you think without putting the words into your mouth. Were they storming the beaches out of ignorance, out of brainwashing? Or were they another reason that I haven't thought of?
Well, it's hard for me to know for sure because I only know how I feel. But I know that if I were in that position, I would be doing it because I would want to be a badass. You know what I mean? I'd be terrified. I'd want to survive, but I wouldn't be like thinking about my wife and kids while I was doing that. I would be so adrenaline hyped up berserk. Like it would be like I was like in a feasting frenzy. That would be the mentality that I would go into. In that sort of a situation. I'd probably die, right away. I'm not saying that I'm tough or awesome or anything like that, but I just don't think psychologically people actually do anything because they want to sacrifice themselves. I think that's incredibly rare, if never. I think that sacrifice is something more often used as an excuse to get other people to do something or guilt other people into doing something. So Milton Friedman had an amazing question and answer session. I don't even know what year it was or what college it was, after he gave a speech about greed. And one of the students asked, well, don't you think that capitalism is, it's got an inherent problem in that it's based off of greed? And he just simply responded, do you think that people in Russia aren't greedy? Do you think there's no greed in China? It's like everybody's greedy. Human nature is the same everywhere. Of course, cultures are different, but our general nature as human beings is the same everywhere. We all experience lust and greed and hate and spite and pride. We have the same emotions. It's just a matter of which system exploits those in a good way or a bad way. So selfishness in a capitalist society leads to the assembly line and Henry Ford being able to make a ton of money making cars for cheaper than ever before, right? And so this is the way that I think about it. I don't think that any system actually makes people better or worse. I just think that systems either amplify or are inefficient at maximizing good versus evil.
I'm going to answer this question now. You got me thinking. You say you got to be not storming the beaches because you're in a certain mode. I think. I mean, I read. I don't read very much, but I read enough of the old stock, or with the old stock, the Battle of Peleliu, and it's about the islands and the Japanese islands. And it's a traumatic book to, I say, read, but listen to. I think that the men and the women stormed the beaches out of out of patriotism, but more so out of the fear of cowardice. And that was one of the punchlines, the bottom lines I took away from the Battle of Peleliu is it's the end goal of military training, or what some might say indoctrination, is to eliminate the individual, and And the last thing you want to do is be a coward. And therefore you do it for the fear of cowardice, which is why anyone who survives has the guilt of having survived. Why did I not die like the rest of my brothers and sisters?
Right.
But I do think it also takes a fair bit of not indoctrination, but convincing. If you don't think it's an existential threat, who the hell is going to go, dig a hole on an island off Japan and be subjected to the horrors beyond horrors if you don't think it's going to come home and get you? And then the question is going to be, as a historical one that I would question is, would that have been the case? Japan and Germany conquering the world, and we'd all be speaking Japanese and German, having seen, the lies about Vietnam, the lies about Iraq, and the lies that the government just doesn't tell the truth. So that was my thought on that. But
no, that's fascinating. Well, and the original question was a very good one. I never thought of it because I'm not intimately familiar with Gad Saad's work. I haven't read his book. I know that I want to, and I've seen them. I know Elon Musk likes them a lot too. But the notion that it's inevitable that Western civilization will lead to a collectivist, sacrificial type culture is interesting to me. I need to think about that because I think oftentimes that it's inevitable that democracy will lead to tyranny. And I wonder if there's a cultural side to that that's less that mirrors the political system shift. So I'm going to think more on that.
Well, I don't know if that was. I don't want to say that was my original thought. Gad Saad's term was suicidal empathy. That's the one he's.
Well, when I say suicidal empathy is self-sacrifice.
Yeah, well,
I love you, I hate myself. Self-sacrifice for you.
Right? What I haven't listened to Gad Saad's new book, Happiness, yet, but I talked to him all the time, and we had coffee, and we're talking about it, and I'm like, suicidal empathy. Oh, you mean like that progressive woman on the streets of New York who, after her boyfriend was just stabbed to death at 4 a.m, she's more concerned about the mental state of the man who just murdered her boyfriend in the name of progressive racial ideology. Then I'm like, yeah, I didn't tell Gad Saad this, but like that is suicidal empathy in its most truest form. But the idea, it couldn't have been me that thought of this.
It's like proactive Stockholm syndrome. Like they don't even have to kidnap you before you love them already.
No, that's it's the level of brainwashing. Is that the criminals are criminals because of institutionalized whatever, and therefore it's not their fault, and we must sacrifice ourselves to their violence and whatever. But no, it could not be my thought that potentially the end, not the end goal, but the end state of Western intelligence, or the Western philosophy, is this sort of progressive, self-consuming, self-destructing system, which is why people now tend to look at, it's very interesting, they look at Russia, which nobody would necessarily qualify as like the highest moral standard, but they're saying they're slightly less free than Western society, but they're better off now because we've gone too far. Or they look at other religions and they say, oh, they've got it right when it comes to certain things, and we've gone too far. So
right. Well, what problem in Europe wouldn't be solved by a Russian occupation?
It would. I would say it's going to be a sour trade-off. It might solve certain problems, but it'll certainly
migrant crisis.
Well, dude, it's not like I'm not rushing to Russia either. But between, like I like to say, if I see now the way that Ukraine and Zelensky has been, what's the word? Lionized, glamorized, idolatrized. That's not the word. And the way Putin has been vilified. Versus Biden, who I think does pretty much the exact same stuff that Putin's doing, but on steroids. How do you look at the way they've treated this war now and not reassess every single war conflict that has ever occurred in the history of humanity, as written in the books? So it's very destabilizing once you realize the degree to which you've been lied to about everything, and you want to look back and say, well, maybe Winston Churchill wasn't the hero that the history has depicted him to be. Maybe he wasn't quite as bad as Hitler and Stalin, but maybe he was. All governments are bad. Period. Yeah. Is the book out, by the way, now?
It's coming out on the 18th, but it's available for pre-order on Amazon.
18th of June. Is there an audiobook, Chase, and are you reading it?
The audiobook will be available on the 18th, and I am not reading it. But if I don't like it, I will read one and replace it. Okay, now let me ask you this. It's a very contract question. Were you allowed to read it, or did they not specifically not want you to read it, the publisher? I asked them if they wanted me to read it, and they said they wanted to use a professional. Even though I talk on a show for a living. Well, and it's not to say you don't have you don't necessarily have the most distinctive to your identity voice like Alex Jones and Gad Saad. But man, I told Gad Saad, like, I don't know if it was a contractual restriction. He needs to read his own book. He's got the best voice for it. I'm listening to the Great Awakening. The guy's trying to sound like Alex Jones, but he ain't Alex Jones. It's hard to listen to, isn't it? It's not. Well, he's mispronouncing one word that's driving me crazy. I forget now. I have to hear it again. But I'm also listening to it 1.3, so things sounds a little different. Okay. So June 18th it comes out. Okay. Very cool. How are the pre-orders doing? I don't know. I'm too scared to look, but I think things are going pretty well. This publisher seems to be pretty happy.
How many hours is the audiobook?
The book is only about 63,000 words. I'd say it's about the same length as The Great Reset by Alex Jones, which was his first book. I think I could probably read this book in three hours, maybe.
Shut
3.5
the
hours.
front door, Chase.
What?
That's fast. I can't.
I don't know. Well, you know how I read? You want me to tell you how I read? I read the first line of every paragraph, and if it's interesting, I'll read the next sentence. And as soon as I read a sentence I don't care about, I just do the paragraph thing again. So I can blow through a book.
It's not bad. Let me see this. Lord of the Ree says Chase might be the next H.L. Mencken. He definitely has the hair for it.
I keep getting that.
Who's Mencken? I'm going to have to Google this. The average person doesn't want to be free. They simply want to be safe is one of his most famous quotes. God bless y'all.
He's right.
Can we talk about the news that's before we even get to the news of Alex Jones, celebrating obesity. is that part of the problem?
Talk about that fat chick in Alabama.
I feel compelled to, because there's a controversy. That's not one of the ones that's mispronounced. There's a controversy about it that, libs of TikTok got community noted. Because let me bring up the tweet. She got community noted, and you won't believe what she got community noted for. We'll see if the community note is still there. She puts out, the girl in the middle just won Miss Alabama, thoughts, and then the community note says,
take her eyes off her.
Well, I mean, there's only a very small parentheses there's only a very small hypothetical where this might be not as bad as it looks. The woman in the picture is not the winner for Miss Alabama 2024. Diane Westover is the one in the picture. Sarah Milken won the National American Miss pageant, where participants are a younger demographic.
Oh,
she literally just said she won Miss Alabama. Her sign says Miss Alabama. She's at a different pageant. When I saw the story, the click to me, the shocking thing to me, and I didn't even think about it, was not that I thought she won Miss America's Alabama. The thing that I found shocking about it is that every outlet that wants to celebrate this as a success was touting the fact that she's a plus-size woman who won Miss Alabama pageant. And whatever it was, I'm trying to find the news on Pink. I'll see if I can get this here. But my issue with that was not which pageant she won, just that we are celebrating morbid obesity, which everyone knows takes years, if not decades, off your life. But now on social media, they're flipping it to MAGA right gets it wrong. This wasn't Miss America. This was just NAM, National American Miss pageant. She won it. And people are celebrating the fact that a morbidly obese person won this award. And I say the only caveat, the only qualification that could make this not as bad as it looks is if the pageant has nothing to do with a typical pageant and is like a talent show. But in which case, as you saw by that photo and everyone reporting on it, and not everyone on the right, they're celebrating the fact that she's a plus-size, morbidly obese woman, as if to say this is the new beauty and you have to accept it, even though there's nothing wrong morally, but some people might think that there is if you don't treat your body like a temple and you abuse it in a way that causes you to die early. Same thing for drugs, anorexia, and whatever. There's no the fact that it's a different pageant, I could care less about. We are celebrating things that are fundamentally and in a literal term anti-life.
Yes, I absolutely. And the funny thing is, it's obvious that in these situations, these people win things like this or get awards like this because of the problem. Right. You know that there was there was this idea among the panel or whatever was going on behind the scenes that this is going to be great press. We're going to be viewed as very open-minded and accepting, and she's going to be so flattered. This is this amazing thing that we're going to do. But it's not even the fact that it's not as aesthetically pleasing, just objectively. Most people are not attracted to women who look like that. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be cruel or insensitive, but it's the character behind what you have to do in order to get to that point. So there's something wrong with this person mentally, whether they're seeking comfort in the food that they eat because they had some sort of childhood trauma. I mean, there's something wrong that happened, and we should, of course, love and embrace and care for people like that and try to help heal them. But if we advocate and push that it's okay to just self-medicate in this way for whatever problem you're not actually dealing with, then it's incredibly unhealthy. And it's confusing, I think, especially to children when they see things like this, similar to drag queen story hours and things like that, when they don't have the context or the wisdom or the experience for you to explain it to them in a way that they understand. And so they just end up adopting it in an unhealthy way that maybe manifests later in bizarre behavior. So whatever. I mean, nobody goes to pageants anymore anyway. Ever since Donald Trump got out of the business, I don't think anybody cares. I used to love watching them when they were hot.
I think, I had a problem with them even when the women were stereotypically attractive. Like, I think it's very weird to want affirmation for physical appearance. It's like, it's such a stroke of luck. It's like, it's so beyond.
It's very vain and superficial.
So like, even when they were the stereotypical, whatever you want to call it, skinny, big, I don't know, big boobs is the way anymore, but I found them very superficial to begin with. But the episode of The Simpsons where Homer's fighting with someone, and someone calls Homer fatty, and he says, it's not fat, it's glandular. Like, I said, like, okay, fine, maybe it's medical, maybe it's not a decision, or maybe it's not a weakness. And even if it were that, people are human, even if it were glandular, it's the idea that we have these powers that be, whether it's national American Miss trying to tell people that up is down and black is white, that it's attractive. Like, it's not. And there's, they talk about beauty's in the eye of the beholder. There's people who are into that. And funny thing is, it's typically referred to as a fetish, which is the actual admission that it's not a preference, but rather something of a quirk, a fat fetish, or other types of fetishes, which they make, stuff about. But the idea that even if it were glandular, the need to get affirmation for this and say, tell me that I'm beautiful, because I obviously don't feel that I am. And this panel saying, we're going to tell her that she's beautiful and thus expose her to the mockery that we know we're going to expose her to. This is like beyond suicidal empathy. This is sort of like homicidal empathy. Go die 20 years early, and we're going to tell you it's beautiful and healthy. Dad, that one's mine.
And the thing that's most unhealthy about things like just pageant competitions in general is that it just operates on the premise that your self-worth or self-esteem should be determined by the way you're judged by a panel, right? And I just think we should be raising people that regardless of whether a panel says they're great or they're terrible, they have a sense of who they are no matter what, that's not necessarily impacted by the views or whims of others. That's how you have strong people, when you have individuals that are willing to be who they are regardless. And so this is just, I feel like almost people like that go to these events because they want like the official badge of being approved by the person in the suit, or it's like the famous, what's that the famous psychological experiment where they had the doctors in the lab coats.
It's either the Milgram or Stanford.
Where they would shock, right? And it was just like the I feel like when you go there and they see somebody behind a desk, look, below the stage, and those people, just because they're behind that table at that event that's named something with a logo about a pageant, they just think, oh, it must be true if this panel is saying this about me, right? And it's just stupid. Whatever.
I'm going to bring it up just so it's not Miss America. But by the way, it's not some, I don't know how big or not big. This is what it seems to be.
This is huge.
This is called, the national, I can't read this. This is the National American Miss.
Unleash
and they
your
got
potential.
But what's amazing is that apparently a man won Miss Delaware. But I love this. National American Miss is a pageant for today's girl. This is what I think it is. I don't think it's not Miss America. That doesn't change anything as to what's offensive, shocking, and outrageous about the story.
It seems like that's where the rejects from the real pageant go.
Well, I don't even know. I mean, if it were just something to empower women, fine. But then you wouldn't call it a pageant. You'd call it a talent show. And if it's something to empower women and girls, you don't let a biological man in there, a man in there. But so that was the news of the day. I wanted to make sure everybody knows the issue is not which pageant this person won. It's the fact that we are being told that certain things which are fundamentally destructive now need to be glorified and lionized.
There's a reason we're not attracted to that.
Well,
it's not hate.
Well, but like the thing is, people can have like I was on a podcast earlier with a lawyer named Danny Ann, and she's like, like people who suffer physical scars beyond their control. There, you want to talk about empowerment and true inner beauty, despite stereotypical litmus tests of beauty. They have ways of testing innately what is attractive, and typically it had to do with the ability to thrive and survive, or genes that get passed along that are indicative of survival genes. Babies respond to symmetrical faces or certain types of faces more than others. And it's not a moral question to say that there's something fundamentally attractive in the stereotypical sense. But if they wanted to celebrate inner beauty, you would do it not by celebrating self-destructive weaknesses. That was my bottom line takeaway from this. Chase, the news of the other day, or the other news of the day. But hold on. Before I get there, let me just read this. There was 2 super chats and Rumble friends. Side note: Mandiza, American Idol alum, died a couple of weeks ago. Corona just ID'd the cause of death. It was attributed to class 3 obesity. The zeitgeist is eating itself. And we got the Chave Minkin. Denise Ann says, David, Alpha Warrior needs a lot of help. He just had to fire his lawyer yesterday because his lawyer wanted him to plead guilty at yesterday's hearing. Have him back on. Alpha Warrior was another one of the Jan 6ers who was raided.
I was on his podcast a couple of weeks ago.
That's outrageous. I'll look into that. I've screen grabbed it. And then we've got tipped questions. Let's see. A recently retired Canadian general said 20 years ago, Canada has 6,000 combat-ready troops, and now it is down to more like 600, which 400 are stationed in Latvia for NATO commitments, says Roostang. Finboy Slick says...
chance to annex Canada.
You joke. It's been annexed by China and or India. And Jeremy's examples of who gets put what in their butt really speaks to Viva's nature. Jeremy's examples of who gets to put what in their butt really speaks to Viva's nature. Finboy Slick. Okay, I know that wasn't intended to be an insult. I don't know if I get the comment. Chase, the news of the day is that the InfoWars has agreed to liquidate assets. Let me see if I can pull up an article.
Yeah.
So and I'm not asking
Jones has a personal bankruptcy, and he's got the corporate one for Free Speech Systems, which is the parent company of InfoWars. And he has motioned for Chapter 7 bankruptcy personally, which means he is going to be forfeiting his personal ownership in InfoWars, and then therefore InfoWars will become the property of the plaintiffs or the court, or however it's termed. Yeah, it's over. We got about 2 weeks left, I think.
Let me see if I'm going to talk about this Sunday with Barnes. Obviously, let me just pull the screen out of here.
Sure.
I want to scroll down.
And the first article that came out about it was the CNN article, and they had Oliver Darcy write it. And that's significant because Oliver Darcy was the reason that Jones was banned from Twitter the last time.
Well, let me see. I'll read it a little bit, and then you'll tell me what you know or what you can answer. Sure. Okay, so he's converting his bankruptcy into Chapter 7. So, and this is I did some Canadian bankruptcy. I've done enough Canadian bankruptcy, but Chapter 11 is reorganization. Chapter 7 is liquidation. So
yes.
So it says that U.S. Judge Alex Jones has asked the judge to convert his bankruptcy 7, giving up an effort to liquidation, giving up an effort to settle massive legal judgments related to his lies about the 2012 Sandy Hook massacre. Jones believes that there's no reasonable prospect of a successful reorganization of his debts, most of which stem from the $1.5 billion judgment. Okay, fine. Courts in Texas and Connecticut have ordered him to pay $1.5 billion. That much we know. Okay, bankruptcy can be used to wipe out the debts. This is what's going to be curious. But the judge overseeing Jones's case ruled in October that most of his defamation verdicts cannot be legally discharged because they result from willful and malicious. This was the issue about it being intentional infliction of emotional distress. It can't be liquidated. It can't be discharged. I'm sorry. So he's always going to have it over his head unless it gets overturned in appeal, which I presume is still going to go forward. So at the end of the day, these decisions might nonetheless still disappear. But he's giving up his ownership in InfoWars to whomever is going to continue to operate InfoWars?
Yes, that's my understanding. And there's some reasons for it that I don't quite understand. You have to forgive me. I don't have any background in law, but I believe that this actually may potentially buy some time for InfoWars, like a matter of extra weeks, short amount of time, because I think that the way that the liquidation is negotiated and handled goes up to a federal court, but I'm not sure. I don't even understand it. Basically, we got to a point where we realized that it was going to be impossible to win this case because the plaintiffs were refusing to work out a reasonable deal settlement. And so I think Jones is just saying, all right, well, then I'm going to move on to the next thing. If it's inevitable that this dies, I'm going to, I've fought as hard as I can. I'm out of money personally, and I owe $1.5 billion, and they're going to string me along, and they're going to make it harder and harder. So it seems like the right decision. We had a company meeting this morning. He made everybody feel good about it, and he's going to try to wrangle something else together as the next step. But unfortunately, I didn't even know it was possible in the United States of America for debt to not be dischargeable, right? And I understand the law, and I'm reading like, oh, okay, so if it's malicious, then I get it. But the fact that he's going to owe money to these people for the rest of his life, to the point where every business that he starts, it could potentially have a court overseeing its operations to make sure that he's not being reckless with profits or making bad business decisions, because that would be failing the plaintiffs in this case, the creditors in this case, or any job that he takes, a portion of his salary, I presume, is going to be going to these plaintiffs. That sounds a lot like indentured servitude to me. And I understand that's the law and it's not just happening to Alex Jones. I'm sure that it's happened to other people in bankruptcies before. But the fact that he's got this hanging over his head for the rest of his life really doesn't sit well with me. And it's not just because I like Alex Jones. It doesn't sit well with me that any court could do that to any person.
No, it is. I mean, there is the legal distinction that there are some debts that are dischargeable and others that are not. And then Texas is known for its good, its robust homestead protection.
Yes,
but yeah, no,
it's his house and his car.
Yeah, and it's true. But bottom line, to the extent that he ever makes a living or has, I don't know how it would work in terms of future revenues, he'll always have this judgment unless it gets overturned, which I, as a matter of law, believe it has to. I mean, people seem to not even understand at this point in time, he was defaulted into liability and there was no hearing evidence submitted for the actual liability. The evidence submitted was for the quantum, where they got a jury, impaneled a jury with grooming type questions, as in like, oh, do you know, would you be averse to a $500 million judgment? And then they got a ridiculous quantum, which exceeds anything that is reasonably justifiable.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that I believe the estate of the man who actually killed the kids was only sued for $1.5 million.
And they'll say, well, that's because you didn't have any money. What's the point of suing for more? It's
Jones
insane.
doesn't have $1.5 billion.
No, but there are people out there who think Jones had a hand in the killing. And there's also people out there who just have a wild misunderstanding of the extent, scope, and nature of the comments Jones made over the years, because they see 10 years of comments condensed into, what was it, 16 minutes of video?
They are told, the public is told by the media and these documentaries that Alex intentionally lied knowing the truth in order to make money. That's the narrative. And the fact of the matter is, the stuff that he said, I don't agree with. I think it was inaccurate back in the day, but he believed it when he said it. So, and I think they knew they weren't going to be able to prove malicious intent in court because it was going to become obvious to people as they talked to him that no, he actually believed. He was crazy, but he actually believed it, and that's why they needed to go to the default route. That's just my opinion on it. Again, I'm not an expert, but I can tell you whatever you think about Alex Jones, and he's not perfect. I mean, he's a loose cannon. He's bombastic. He's a wild man. He's great. He's not a liar, and he's not a bad man. So I didn't care so much before I started working here, but now that I've been with him for a year and spent so much time with him, I really do personally care about him. And it's just really fucked up what they've done to him.
No, there's no question. And again, it's like he did. If you take a few sentences, yes, wrong, objectively wrong, callous, immoral, however you want to call it,
reckless.
The idea that he initiated the harassment campaigns is factually incorrect, and nobody's ever going to know that because they never had a hearing on it. Statute of limitations were legal questions that were to be asked that were not asked because of the default liability. Public figures. I mean, whether or not it's a tragedy, they became, if nothing else, single purpose public figures, where you have to prove actual malice above and beyond. And then the other thing, just bottom line, even if you get into violent event denial, and even if he was the most malicious denier of events, I mean, you still have people who think Ashley Babbitt is not dead. I mean, I
believe that the Holocaust didn't happen.
I know. Well, the only problem with that analogy is that you've got countries that made Holocaust denial a crime, and
but
in
the United States, it's not a crime.
Well,
so you can legally say the Holocaust didn't happen, but you can't say that a mass shooting didn't happen.
It is wild, but you have people out there who still say Ashley Babbitt didn't die. Or you have people out there who say that Brian Sicknick was murdered by Trump protesters. I mean, these are all lies about tragedies. And then people are out there who genuinely believe it. And I should be within their rights to say it. It's a terrible thing, but like something like that happens. And then you have politicians like Obama, and you have public figures like Piers Morgan jumping on it and politicizing it. You can't blame people for having conspiratorial thoughts, especially given what we know. So, but I'm going to talk about it with Barnes on Sunday, because I just don't understand how I don't know if an application was made to stay execution of the decision pending the appeal. They're going to liquidate, or Alex has given up his interest. So what do you think is going to happen? They're going to liquidate the assets of InfoWars, sell cameras?
If I had to guess, both hearings for his personal and for free speech systems are on Friday the 14th, 10 a.m. back to back. If I had to guess, the judge is probably going to approve Chapter 7 and dismiss the bankruptcy case for free speech systems, eliminating bankruptcy protections. And
so
at that
states
point,
are going to go back for
at
liquidating,
that point,
or
the state's going to
executing.
come in and liquidate like immediately, like the next week, within a
Or they're
few
gonna-
days. They just have to get a judge to sign it. They'll
Yeah, I
probably
think
lock the doors and then start auctioning stuff off.
It's. I mean, and I don't mean this is not to be demeaning. I mean, even if it's worth, let's say aggregate, I don't know, $10 million in the studio, broken up, it's going to be worth 10 cents on the dollar.
Yeah, they don't want the money though, because
Yeah,
you got to keep in mind they make money in other ways. So they sued Remington. I think they made like $70 million. I think they might have sued one other business, but they've also raised millions of dollars, I believe, for some of the foundations and nonprofits that they're working on off of Alex Jones being the villain. And the fact of the matter is, these lawyers, the plaintiffs are different. I'm not talking about the families. These lawyers, the legal teams that took an interest in this case, they're not going after him because he was wrong about Sandy Hook. They're going after him because of all the things that he's right about. And he represents a real threat to the narrative that is necessary for a leftist victory. And they're really pulling for democratic ideals and this neo-leftism. And I don't think it's necessarily conscious. I think on a subconscious level, they're just disgusted by him because he stands for everything that they hate. And they're using this as the excuse or the vessel to go after him.
I was going to ask you something.
It's okay.
But I got
But
distracted.
it's not the families. I think the families are pretty innocent in this. I just think they're being taken advantage of by attorneys.
Oh, well, so actually, that's now you brought me up. Is this it? No, this is the bankruptcy. The Remington settlement, $73 million. I just wanted to double check that it was in fact the insurance that paid it out, because I'm certain that it is. But no, you're right. I mean, this was they settled in Remington for an astronomical sum.
Yes.
And it's an interesting point. I mean, I do think that there
And it was $73 million in 2012. So if they invested that, it's a lot now.
What else? I was going to say something else about the Sandy. No, I think that at some point we might see some issues between some of the plaintiffs and some of the lawyers, because it does seem that there might be some diametrically opposed interests between counsel and the parties. But we'll see what happens there. What's going to be the plan of everybody if the anticipation is to be out on the street, proverbially speaking, in 2 weeks? What are you up to? What are you going to do?
Yeah, Alex is trying to negotiate a couple things to help take care of the crew. I know that Alex is going to try to do something immediately after. He doesn't know what yet, because everybody and their mother is reaching out to him saying, you can use my studio or we should do a partnership. And he knows everybody. He's been on air for 30 years, speaking to the most influential, like-minded people. So obviously he's got a lot of opportunities that he's got to think about. But what I'm going to do, I have yet to decide. Right now, I'm just focused on selling as many copies of this book because it's coming out on the 18th. And I've got a lot of podcast appearances booked. So I'll have my work cut out with me for at least a few weeks. And I think that there'll be a couple of weeks where I still receive a paycheck the way that this is going to work out in terms of the liquidation. So I'll figure something out, man. It always works out for me.
What was the CRO getting paid $50,000 a month? Are you allowed to tell me that? I don't know where
That's public information. Yes.
$50,000 a month.
Yes.
Oh my good. The only question I had is, I asked Barnes last Sunday, like, why would the CRO possibly support this? I mean, he's losing his golden goose, but I was told, he'll find other ways, or they will find other ways. Chase, what else can we talk about? I mean, I don't want to keep you too long, and I'm gonna take some locals questions in a second, but you're going to be pushing the book, and Godspeed on it.
Thank you.
How can people order it now? Let me
The best way to do it is just go to my Twitter account at Real Chase Geiser. That's RealChaseGeiser. And it's all linked up in the bio, and it's very obvious how to get my book if you go to my Twitter profile. That's the best way to do it. And I do encourage you to get it on Amazon versus any of the other platforms like Barnes & Noble or Target or the publisher's website, just because all of the pre-orders before the book is released officially on the 18th count towards sales on the first date of release. And that really helps with the ranking of the book on the date of release. So please check it out. It's Kindle. It's going to be audiobook as well. And it's obviously print hardback.
Amazing. I'm going to give the link to everyone here in Locals and on Rumble. That's the link to your Twitter feed. It's always risky adding an extra link because then people they get distracted from one link to the other. Chase, and so what's your show on Alex on InfoWars? It'll be on for the next couple of weeks. What time?
I think so. Yes. So Sunday nights from 6 to 8 p.m. Central Time, so 7 to 9 Eastern. And this may be the last one this Sunday, but I think I'll probably do next Sunday too. We're not anticipating liquidation going all the way through until the middle of the week after the hearing. So,
And there's still some, I don't know, is there some faint light that this might be resolved from, I don't know what the status of a potential settlement is. Is there any faint light, glimmer of hope that this might be resolved amicably through restructuring?
I highly doubt it. I would give you about a 99.5% confidence that that's not going to happen.
Well, I mean, the Jones and financial issues is going to be one thing. Amplifying Jones's populist message, and I still think this is all about having
Streisand effect.
Well, that's it. There's no question. I mean, and you, I don't know if I do know. Aggregately, you go on everybody's podcast, you're going to reach more. What's the daily reach of InfoWars? Like 5 million?
I don't know how many listeners we have. It's hard for us to quantify because it's spread out across different mediums. So we have a bunch of radio stations that we're on. Who knows how many people listen on those? We have the stream on our own website. We're on every single obscure platform you can imagine streaming, plus on Twitter. But I can tell you that Alex Jones in 7 days reaches over 100 million people on his personal Twitter account.
Okay, well, that's amazing. So, I mean, now I don't know if you can aggregate that, but I'm sure you could. And even if it were a show on Twitter,
we were reaching enough people to sell $100,000 of supplements a day. Public information.
Son of a beasting. Well, now I can understand. Now I can understand why people are. No, I was going to say I can understand why everyone's going to be knocking on Alex's door. It's like, hey, come on my channel and we'll. Okay, well, anyways, that's amazing. It's not good. I
can't imagine how many people that must be because I've done sales and digital marketing for a long time. Sell $100,000 worth of supplements. You got to be reaching millions of people.
Yeah, well, but also, from what I understand, it's good stuff. I'm not trying to sell Alex's stuff.
It's legit. And I didn't believe in it before I worked here either. But it was laying around, and I would try it, and I noticed the difference. It's real.
Yeah, and I got. Well, I don't have any of InfoWars supplements, but I don't really take very many supplements. But like there's energy drinks and vitamins and there's stuff that we take that we should take every day because it's just the thing to do. You can find
Absolutely. Well, if you want to try them ever, you have to go to InfoWarsStore.com right now because after 2 weeks, you're not going to be able to get them. So if you ever want to just know what it was like to have the snake oil, as the leftists like to call it, now's your chance to go get some.
InfoWars.com. Chase, thank you very much. It's been fantastic. We will continue to be in touch, and everybody knows everybody's always welcome on this channel. It just seems that only certain people from a certain political demographic accept that open-ended invitation. But
I can pretend to be a communist next time.
Good, we can do it. You'll steel man communism. Chase, thank you. I'm gonna put the link in the pinned comment when we're no longer live, so people can find it. The book is The Rise of American Populism: A Handbook to Radical Patriotism.
For radical patriotism.
And it's Geiser, not Geiser, people. So don't mispronounce it.
And Alex Jones wrote the foreword too. So that's another
that's the utmost of flattery. That's amazing. And Steve Bannon wrote the foreword for The Great Awakening. So it's beautiful. Okay, Chase, thank you very much. It's been fantastic.
Thank you so much.
All right, go have a good one. All right, now I did see, I want to bring this up because there's a chat in our vivabarneslaw.locals.com community. Roostang. $1 tip says, Viva, where's your steelman argument, Viva? Some might call you a fat shamer. By the way, don't you realize that a lot of people have genetic issues and grow up with food stamp crap food? There are guys who like big women. There are guys in intimate matters that these guys say in intimate matters that the plus size booty gals offer more cushion for the push. And Roostang, I started off thinking that I was being shamed for not steelmanning it because I thought I did. And now I think towards the end of that comment that maybe it was intended with humor. No, because first of all, I'm not a fat shamer. Nobody can call me a fat shamer without being an idiot. What I am saying is that people should be healthy, period. Now I think that wasn't a serious attack. People should be healthy. And there's no shame in being fat. It's not, it depends on what the perspective is. There's no shame in being, you don't walk around and insult fat people, but you don't want to empower negative lifestyles, period. It's an amazing thing. It's like nobody would say you're not. Oh yeah, good for you for being too skinny. Maybe you should go eat less and regurgitate more. Nobody would say that. And so now I think that comment was not serious. But no, the steel man is that even if she did have a glandular problem and it is something beyond her control. And by the way, yes, government food stamp is crap. And the issue there is not to celebrate obesity. It's to go after the food crap. My kid came back from school. They have the public school lunch and. Holy shit, it was brown. It was all brown. I mean, even the apples were brown. You had these little apple slices. They were brown. The milk, it was chocolate milk. Sugar, crap. The burger was like a freaking disgusting white bun with a brown burger. Disgusting. And it's not that like, it is, you realize people eat bad food and that's a problem. It's not a question of shame. It's just an actual real problem that needs to be addressed. All right, let me see here. Crash Bandit in Rumble says the same people normalizing obesity are probably the same people saying we have too many people on the planet. When looking through the lens, it must be part of the plan. That's what I put out as a deep thought on Locals earlier today. This is from Crash Bandit, that you push obesity, and in 2 generations you've eliminated a lot of people. 10 to 20 years. I didn't realize it was that bad, but like pre-diabetes, diabetes, heart issues, joint problems, and then forget also like just outright reduction of life, but reduction of life quality. Oh, so everybody, that was fantastic. I guess what I'll do, did I just close the stream? I didn't. I'm still here. What I'm going to do is I had a few other stories on the backdrop, which I'm going to save for vivabarneslaw.locals.com. I will say that the community note on Libs of TikTok is bullshit. Gypsy Muse puts in a comment here, says, as Miss Maryland and military PR rep, this man in a dress will interact with kids. The Miss Maryland USA pageant crowned a man June 1st who goes by the name of Bailey Ann Kennedy, I think I commented on that, whom pictures show large prosthetic breasts, as a 31-year-old military officer's wife. We're living through craziness. Viva says M May 14. Yes. All right, so what we're going to do here, I'm going to give everybody the link at Rumble. Come on over. I'm going to do a short video at some point later today. We're going to go fishing. I hooked another knife fish, a knife clownfish. And it was freaking massive, people. And then the kids, not my kids, these other kids were on the same dock fishing. They're like, oh, to get it around the alligators, I've got to haul it around to the side dock so I can land it. And then like an idiot, I panic and pull, and I pulled the fish out of the hook out of the mouth. I should just not listen to people tell me what to do. I had the good rod with the heavy line. I could have hauled that thing out of the water faster than the gator. I panicked, and I used it as a life lesson to tell my kid. It's hilarious. I said, what is the easiest way to get someone to make the wrong decision? Quick, what's the easiest way to get someone to make a wrong decision? Answer quickly, immediate, do it. And he's like, I don't know. And it's like, there you go. Panic and fear. And I panicked and I made the wrong decision and I lost that beautiful fish. But if anybody has not seen what a knife fish, clownfish looks like, it's freaking beautiful. Let me see if oh yeah, that's a good one right there. That was roughly how big mine was. Hold on, let me bring this up here so you guys don't think I'm. Look at this thing, man. I think that's how big it was. Look at this beautiful fish. Holy crab. It looks like you can lip it too. That looks like it might not have sharp teeth. They're an invasive species from Thailand, I believe. They can swim backwards. And from what I'm told, electric. From what I'm told, they emit electric shocks, but I might have mistaken that. The knife fish pictured to the electric. Okay, no. So no, it doesn't. It doesn't. So that's it. I lost it. I'm still frustrated about it. So I might have to go back and try to get it. We are going to, let me see what's in the backdrop of the stories that I didn't get to cover. Hunter Biden. Oh yeah, we'll talk about that. And and a historic vid. You're going to want to come over to vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Let's see. We got 4,250 people over here. First of all, if you're not coming, just hit the thumbs up and drop a comment and make sure you're subscribed. Second of all, come on over. Let's get 4,000 people migrating to Locals. Here, try it. Let's see how many we can get. We are going to watch a hilarious video. We are going to talk about Hunter Biden and what I believe is actually going on by Madam First Lady Jill Biden showing up daily to stare down those members of the jury. We'll talk about it. And why am I being told to answer a question on Twitter? When people tag me and say, answer this question, Viva. Okay, that is it. So stay tuned for short video coming up later this afternoon. Come on over to vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Let me see here. Shabbat Shalom, David, says M. Sidlow, who I know is testing my Hebrew. Viva, you got to fix this. The fish is laughing at you, says Clyde, 6 Killer. Honor234 says, so you kill it when you catch them. I'll be stuck in a catch-22. I'm not killing a fish if I'm not eating it, and I know they say you're supposed to kill invasive species. And then we got a pure blood stallion. Love Viva. I like that. Thank you. I am on Rumble now, says Angel Joy 57. Well, come on over to vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Best to kill and cook them prior to eating. I've never tasted peacock bass, so I'm tempted. I'm half tempted to do a catch and cook with peacock bass. I'm going back to get that fish. I am. Ora Rabenu says, I learned something today. On the dark web, they have their own tokens. The dark web has its own currency. The dark web is disgusting hell. Don't go over there. Just know it exists. And dude, I'm listening to The Great Awakening, and I'm on the chapter of on how Jeffrey Epstein's rise to fame. And I'm saving it. I'm saving it for locals. Jeffrey Epstein's rise to fame and the incestuous relationship between Jeffrey Epstein, Bill Barr, and Bill Barr's father. We've talked about it on our streams, but we'll talk about it on locals. All right, so I'm ending it on Rumble. Thank you all for being here. It's been fantastic. If you're not coming, but come, please, all of you, 4,000 people. Let's do this. Live stream ending. All right now. Thank you. Locals, here I comes. Locals. Okay, let's see what's going on here in the chat. Sadaka says, I grew up in Florida. I worked on a shrimp boat from age 14 to 21. There isn't too many fish I haven't seen. Oh, there aren't too many fish I haven't seen. Dude, I need that knife fish is so beautiful. Did I miss one? Jeremy's examples of who gets put. Okay, that's what I saw. Finboy Slick. Roosting I got. Mandalici says, I was in a Miss America pageant in high school. I don't know what to think of your comments about the younger me doing this. I'm near insulted. I can't tell if it's jokes or not. I was in a state America pageant in high school. Oh, about me thinking it's no, I think it's vain. I mean, I come on. Like, it's weird. Finboy Slick. Oh, it was a reference to Viva's gold suppositories. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get on that idea. Damn it, I gotta get on the coins already. Okay, so Bill Barr, Jeffrey Epstein, was given a job at Dalton University in New York, where Anderson Cooper, Claire Danes, and Chevy Chase went. Okay. Dalton University. He was teaching mathematics, though he never got his degrees. Okay. The headmaster or principal of Dalton University was Bill Barr's father. Bill Barr's father was of the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services, like the original CIA. Bill Barr's father's son, at one point said he wanted to be the head of the CIA or be involved in the CIA. All right. So Bill Barr's father is the one who gave Jeffrey Epstein his job at Dalton, despite Epstein, by all accounts, being unqualified for the job. Bill Barr's father wrote that disgusting intergalactic sex novel about alien species taking humans as sex slaves. And then Bill Barr, his son, wants to be the head of the CIA and gets involved. I mean, that's very suspicious. Jeffrey Epstein, who we all know, became intimately involved with Ghislaine Maxwell. I refuse to pronounce it Ghislaine. It's disgusting. Ghislaine Maxwell, whose father was Robert Maxwell, thought to be involved with Mossad. When Robert Maxwell died, curiously, by falling off his boat named Ghislaine, at his funeral were like 6 members of Mossad. The prime minister of Israel gave him a eulogy. And then somehow they get Jeffrey Epstein involved in all of this. Epstein was at the funeral also. It's a big, fat, satanic, incestuous circle of hell that I never want to know anything, that I never want to have anything to do with. Mandalici says, it wasn't my idea to do it. My best friend talked me into doing it. Young, dumb, and looking for scholarships. Now, look for the scholarship, like talent shows, things that celebrate things above and beyond physical beauty. That I'm down with. You ever see those bodybuilders doing the bodybuilding competitions? Those people are unique people as well. All right. Chat. Getting Viva's attention with a bouncing Barnes. Oh my goodness. N. Spence, Viva, have you had Whitney Webb? Viva, you have to add Whitney Webb's One Nation Under Blackmail to your listening list. It goes much deeper and really fleshes it out further. Well, hold on just 1 second. Let me go to my Audible and see. I know I have a couple of credits left. Go here. Okay. One Nation Under Blackmail. Volume 1 and Volume 2? Dude, I can't read. Oh, it is. Okay, hold on. Volume 1 is how many hours? Holy shit, 18 hours? And then what's Volume 2? 50 hours? I'm adding it. I'm buying it right now. Buy with 1 credit. Confirm. Done. And let's go get Volume 2, babies. Volume 2. Buy with 1 credit. Confirm. And now I'm going to my library. Success. One Nation. I'm going to download it so that I can be sure to be able to read it. I got to go to in progress, not started, downloaded. No. In progress, not started. One Nation Under Blackmail. And I'm going to download. How do I download it? Like this. Download. Download. And seems to be downloading. Done. People, I got it. 33 hours of listening. 1.3. I'll get through it in 20 hours, 20 some odd hours. Okay. Thank you. It's done. I just used 2 credits. I hope it's worth it. Gypsy Muse. Finboy Slick says, I don't think you'll be able to keep up with Whitney Webb's books. Seriously, it's way too packed. That was my Not Problem with Chaos by Tom O'Neill. Too many names, but like I so long as I get the 30,000 foot overview, I know that Charles Manson was being dosed up with LSD at Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Care Clinic, where the CIA was using it to observe the effects of LSD on people. Damn, that's all I need to know. CIA involved in Manson. He was an asset. He might have been a hired goon to keep Hollywood in check, and that's why they had to cover up the connection between Manson, the CIA, MK Ultra, LSD, mind control programming, and his murder of the Tate and LaBianca. I haven't got. Yeah, I did the book review on that. Abraham _P says, big girls shade in the summer and heat in the winter. Okay, let's go down here. N. Spence, Viva, then invite Whitney Webb back on to discuss Your Mind is going to be blown. Oh, no, we talked about it, and I'll do it any day of the week. She was on, and I know that I took flack from some people who thought it was anti-Semitic to suggest Mossad connections to Maxwell, who's Jewish, and Jeffrey Epstein, who's Jewish, and Ghislaine Maxwell, who's also Jewish, and let me see who else. It goes deep. Then there's no question about that. All right. So, by the way, this is what's happening today. The Hunter Biden trial. Jill Biden flew in from frickin' Normandy so that she could attend the trial and then goes back. Let me bring this up to you because if you won't believe it. And then we're going to get to 2. Here, look at this. This is Ryan Nobles says new. Jill was in France yesterday, but the First Lady, Jill Biden, has returned to support Hunter Biden for day 5 of his criminal trial. So far, she only missed 1 day of the trial, and that was when she was for the D-Day anniversary. She's expected to return to France tonight. Just itch base, just flying across the country. First carbon footprint be damned. Got to support her son. She's not supporting her son, by the way. That is straight up jury intimidation. There's no question about it. Is straight up jury intimidation. Having the First Lady there every day, flying in from Normandy. Did I just close the stream down? No, I didn't. Flying in from Normandy. Hey, jury, you know who I am? I haven't really been involved in such crack dealings as my son's descent into addiction because it's been very good for the big guy. But I'm here daily to let you know what's at stake if you don't acquit. I'm predicting it now, and you will have heard it first, locals. Hunter's getting acquitted. Or, I don't know, maybe, I don't know what sort of sweetheart deal he can take at this point in time, but I think he's going to get acquitted. They're going to say, well, I used to do drugs. I still do, but I used to too. But when I filled out that form, I wasn't doing drugs, and I didn't think I was an addict, and it was very ambiguous, and therefore I didn't lie when I got it. And I wasn't doing drugs for the 11 days where I was discussing how I was doing drugs, and so I wasn't in unlawful possession of the firearm for 11 days. Suspend disbelief, acquitted. Take the Sussman route. That's what's going to happen. Clip it. What else? What time is it? Holy crap! It's 4:15 already. This is what's going on. I haven't watched this yet. I haven't watched it, and I don't know if it's accurate, which is why I'm skeptical about everything. This apparently is from the David Jacobs Dad, husband, doctor, president, Ontario Association of Radiologists. So he's got the Ukrainian flag and the Israeli flag. I don't know what to say. So a graduating McGill University student decided to spit on the dean and another faculty member. The crowd cheered her on. Is this the end product of higher education universities? If this is the end of if this is the end product of higher education, universities are in need of serious introspection and remediation. I haven't seen it. Let's see what happens. All right, I'll tell you what I'm looking for here. We're going to watch it again. I'm looking for a reaction from the people she spat on. Divest, okay. All right, chat. What do you think we just saw there? I don't want to poison the well by telling you what I think. I am not thoroughly convinced that she spat on them, like physically spat, because if someone's saliva touches me, if someone spits on me and it's actual saliva, like that chick who spat on Alex Stein, Primetime 99, I'm freaking out, and I don't think I'm alone in that. I think she might have gone tui, tu, tu, like a symbolic spit, because the reaction, it did not look like they were actually physically spat on. She spit on the floor. I bet she still lists that degree on her resume, says SRED. M. May says 15 minutes of fame. Sponsor, where is this? UBC? No, McGill in Montreal, if it's true. I can't verify these things, and crap, I don't want to make mistakes. Roostang, are you, but now I'm curious. Roostang, just tell me in the chat. Roostang, tell me in the chat if your comment was supposed to be more humorous than serious, because I thought I did steel man the argument. Finboy Slick says, since you like 5 times August, thought you'd like my post about Amy Allen, who did the similar Ron Paul revolution. I'm going to put that up in the back and watch that in a second, Finboy. It looks like Pudge she's going to poop. She's going to poop. Everybody out. I have to poop. She spat in their general direction. I spit in your general direction, says Mart. So that's what I think. I don't think she, oh, for fuck's sake, I can't get the video. All I see is the chat. Well, it's on. I'm not retweeting because I don't know what happened. Sammy says, are any commentators pointing out that nothing happened after Trump was convicted? I thought Trump supporters were unhinged and dangerous. Sammy, thank you for the note. I might steal that thought and make it mine. Finboy Slick. Okay, no, we got a circle of death. I don't know what that is in response to. She's gonna poop. She's gonna poop. Don't look at me. Don't look at me like that. Hold on. Maybe she just needs food. Hold on. She might be pooping. Go get her. Okay. See, at least if she poops now, it's someone else's problem. Viva, it was a mixed bag, some awareness and lots of humor. Okay, good. No, because I steel-manned it. And the issue is not being fat. The issue is just celebrating as healthy and beautiful, fundamentally unhealthy lifestyles that will hurt people. It's irresponsible to Bruce Stang. You trolled Viva. Good job. Let the dog poop, says SV. She pooped before, so I don't think she's got much left in her. But I step out of the room, come back. It's like someone played a trick. Like, here's a prank. There's a log of poop on the ground. It was Pudge. Oh, by the way, the amount of poop I had to clean up after the last stream, the day before yesterday, it was like a crime scene, except it was poop. And I had to go once over the entire ground floor and with soap and soapy water, then go over it with really hot water one more time. Locals video is always freezing. It's the circle of death. Oh, I see. Neurodivergent. Let me see if I'll text him and see if there's been any problem. Okay, so that was one video. I'm not sure that she spat on him, so I'm gonna withhold retweeting with commentary because I don't want to jump on a bandwagon like many people did yesterday with Biden pooping. This is flipping funny. Where is it? Historic vids. This is flipping funny. And I'm watching them and like, I love this, except for the first part.
Swirl it around, as I said to you before.
How do you
throw it out?
Oh my God.
Because you want to get rid of it.
So when I went Scotch tasting in Scotland with my father-in-law, and they're like, we got a little intoxicated because I wasn't wasting any of it. And I was not letting anybody else just take a little sip and say, "Oh, thank you, moving on." But I love it. He's telling you how to sniff the scotch.
Any odors that are perhaps on the lip of the glass, swirl it around, bring it up and say, hello. Then you go back to it.
How are you?
How are you? And then go back to it. Quite well. Thank you very much. Now remember, get into it. Don't go like this. None of this stuff. You want to get right into it to make sure that you're actually examining every part of that whiskey. How do you taste it? Don't knock it back like a cowboy. Take the water. But don't just pick up a jug like this. What you need to do is to pick up a jug with your finger in the water. Why? Because you want to test it.
I gotta say, I cannot but see Neil Oliver in all of this. Is there any accent that is more beautiful than the Scottish accent? The answer is no. It was a trick question.
Why do you want to test it? Because many barmen, unfortunately, stick their jug under a hot tap by mistake. And therefore, this is what ruins whiskey. 6 times I've now ruined my whiskey. 6 times. Twice in America, once in France, once in Stockholm, and twice in England. So you take the still water, you put it into the whiskey, reduce it down to 35% alcohol. 35% alcohol is the ideal strength for.
This is where he lost me, because 47% alcohol is the ideal strength for me. I'm joking. Bada bing, bada boom. I love that. I saw that. It's just like, hey, hello. How are you? Very good. Thanks. I mean, that makes me want to go get a good bottle of scotch and do it, but I don't think I'm going to. All right, people, we had one more thing in the backdrop here. Let me see what I had here. Prosecutors finish evidence against Hunter. Oh yeah, the trial's over. I'm gonna do a talkie vlog about that. But dead to rights. He's dead to rights. I have a feeling he's gonna get acquitted. I better put that out there actually, so that I can take credit when it happens. That's it. Okay. Now before the kid comes back to get me, and let's see. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, we're going to go back here and we're going to do our. What time is it? We're going to do 9 minutes of AMA for supporters only. Although I strongly suspect everybody watching at this point is already a supporter. Enabling it now. Bill Connolly doing this would be priceless. Oh yeah, a lot of people find 35% as a bit hot. What I've found is that alcohol is getting excessively high percentage. Like you get cask strength, and that's fine. Everybody knows that that's supposed to be strong. But like gins, I got a Quebec gin. It was 47%. That's an extra, almost like 20. So bad. That's like an extra 20%. So if you make a 4.5 ounce martini, that's a 5.5 ounce martini. That makes a big difference. Yeah, Viva. My favorite is Glenmorangie. Hyphen, my favorite is actually Ochtoshan 21 or Ochtentoshan 21. I had it by accident at a wedding, and like I love Lafroig, I love Lagavulin, and they're magnificent. I don't love Blue Label as much as its price; it's just not worth it. I once had an amazing Knock and Do 25, but I was at a wedding. Ochtentoshan, how do you spell that? Ochtentoshan, the Scotch. Ochtentoshan 21. Was the best scotch I've ever tasted. I remember at the wedding, and I remember whose wedding it was. And it was just the best scotch I'd ever tasted. And I remember it, and it stuck with me. So that's my favorite. Okay, let's take that out of here. Back to the rapid fire AMA. Mandalici, are you day drinking? LOL. No, I got this crap. These were once upon a time my favorites, and then I read it. You know what's in the ingredients? I'm not drinking anymore, but I got a few that I have to get through in the house. Sucralose. Garbage. I don't want sucralose anymore. I'm not day drinking alcohol. I'm day drinking energy drinks. I'm going to go get a canned iced coffee or something. What is your average daily poop cleanup, SREN? I mean, 100%. It's like I wake up, the first thing I got to do, she's been driving me effing nuts now. She whines in the morning. I got to take her outside and squeeze her pee out so that she doesn't pee in the room. So I get up at 6, run her outside, squeeze the pee out, bring her back in, give her a frozen puck of food, and then I hold off on cleaning up the poop until 100% I clean up poop and pee every day. The only question is there poop, pee, and barf? Because I don't know what Pudge eats, but every now and again things come up. And then if I get the grand slam, it's poop, pee, barf, and blood, because Pudge has chafed her back legs again. I have not yet gotten to the the quintuplet, and you can also just add what that fifth bodily fluid would be. But I've gotten the Grand Slam many times, and I'm just looking around now. I'm looking around. Yep. Let me see. No, we're good. Okay. Not that anybody wanted to know that. It was so bad the other day. I told my wife, I told Marion, if any normal person would have put the dog down today alone, like this, that would have been enough to break a normal human spirit. Finboy Slick says, I've been on a roll with memes lately as a challenge. There's a Viva Michael Jackson hidden somewhere in my posts. You're Canadian. You can do blackface, right? Nope. SV or SVEA 123. Maybe it's those hockey pucks you're feeding the dog that make them poop so much. No, she's on an all beef diet. And if it weren't for the all beef diet, her poop would be disgusting, sloppy mess. As it is, it's not that hard to clean up because it's very dry and hard. Okay, that's no more poop talk. Do I like cognac, says Denny San too. I have never met a hard alcohol that I don't like, except two exceptions. It was a gin made from milk, cow's milk. It was the most disgusting thing. I didn't even finish it. It was made from the milk or like cow milk. I don't know how they do it. Toxic. My brother-in-law suggested I get it like from milk whey or something. I forget exact. Petit lait. It's made from petit lait. Hold on a second. Let me just see what that is in English. Petit lait. Petit lait. Bertha's Revenge gin shot. That's not the one it was. The only one that's coming up is Bertha's Revenge gin. It was undrinkable for me. And I just found it. Yeah. Gin de petit lait, which is like, I don't know, it's made from milk. It was disgusting. Couldn't drink it. And anything that tastes like black licorice. Even though absinthe tastes like black licorice, I was able to drink that. And it was interesting. Little milk. It's disgusting. I like scotch when it is cut with drambuie. Oh, that's a sacrilege. Mixing up. We got Gypsy Muse says, you must check Biden in the Wild geographic style. Okay, I'm going to keep that open in the backdrop and look at that afterwards. What do we got here? Fauci on a wheel being pushed off the... Okay, that's Fauci being pushed off a cliff. Viva, you need to embrace your Canadian roots and make smoked fish. I could do it. We got a smoker in the back. We bought a smoker off our neighbor. Is that Perry Mason or Matlock? I think that's Perry Mason. It's Matlock. Oh God. It was Drambuie I can't do. Ouzo I can't do, but I mean, if I had to, there's too much sugar in it. But the petit lait was disgusting. Yeah, I went down a Jill Biden rabbit hole, says Sammy, after her ex-husband came forward on why they got a divorce. Holy crab apples! I kind of think Joe Biden's wife Neela tried offing herself and the kids, or the brakes were tampered with. An onlooker said she turned into an oncoming truck. Everything about the family is nefarious. How is the fish aquarium coming, Mandalici? It's coming along. I mean, some of the fish have been eating each other. We got a few left. There's a Mayan cichlid, and the bluegill passed. But I think the fish have been maybe eating each other, but it's still cool. Smoked fish is good, but I don't like the bones. I always get nervous. My mother told me when I was a kid, this man developed an abscess, lost 50 pounds. Why? Because he swallowed a fish bone that got stuck to his lining and it amassed and he almost died. So there's that. Oh God, there's Joe Biden farting up like a rocket. Okay, that's amazing. What do we got here? Viva, Mike Benz and you have a lot in common. Both former lawyers, both classical pianists, and both chess players. When are you going to interview him? Mike Benz. Hold on one second and let me see that. That name sounds familiar, and I'm wondering if I haven't already asked him. Mike Benz. Executive Director, former State Department. Is that him? If it is him, I have not talked to him. No, that's not it. Bada bing, bada boom. Ooh, okay. Okay. Viva, the super duper pooper scooper. Oh, we grew up with one of those, the super duper pooper scooper. Speaking of eating, what was that? Hyphen Finboy Slick. That's what I used to look like as a lawyer. That's not even a fair AI. I mean, that's what I used to look like. The dirty Magnum PI mustache is a little much. But speaking of eating, what is the tastiest fish you've ever caught, Sammy? Easy, hands down. Mahi mahi, fresh the day you get it. That was delicious. But it's also the fact that, you know, you go up. The best tasting fish is the one you catch, cook, and clean yourself. But mahi mahi, hands down, no question. Fresh off the boat, fresh off the booty. And oh God, Esran, that is an old school smoker. The funny thing is, I had a barbecue that was just like that, and I used it more as a smoker than a barbecue because it had this contraption where it actually was more effective as a smoker when you shut the lid. Pudge is the acting president, says Auntly. So that's it. Oh, Lordy. Everyone, this has been a good one. I'm going to go fishing. Apparently, the shop has now got shiners in. Shiners. Oh, the book is on Audible. So Chase's book is on Audible. Happy to send you a free copy of the hardback. That would be great, period. I'll give you my address in a second, period. I would take an Audible version as well, smiley face. I'm going to go order it now. All right, done. Let me see. Now, hold on. Viva says, you got duplicate streams on locals, and you sent me this at 2 o'clock, Bill? Well, I'm about 2.5 hours late. Oh, shit, that might explain something. What the? That's not my fault. I didn't set up 2 streams. I might have hit the button twice, and then it did it before. All right, see, now so which chat have I been reading? I didn't know. Oh, cripe. This is what I get for having my phone on silent. Now I go look. Gosh darn it. Gosh darn it. See if my copyright claim has been resolved yet. Okay. Everybody, I'm going fishing. Let's do it. Let me see what happened here. vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Yeah, there's 2. That's great. Okay, well, let's just see which chat I was looking at. Did I miss tips in the other one? Viva bungled it. Let me see here. So this is tipped. Viva. Okay, so this one I've seen. Let me go back and now go to the second one. Did I miss any tipped questions here? Okay. Oh, here. Where is Viva? There's 9 people here. I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. Set up 2 streams. Okay, well, sorry about that. I think everyone figured it out, but thank you, Bill Brown, for letting them know. He's live on the other stream he posted. Okay. All right, well, now I'm going to end both of them, and we're going to go on with the day. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you no later than Sunday. It's going to be one hell of a banger show. Next week, I got good stuff coming up. I'm going to be on Fresh and Fit Friday night, so stay tuned for that. And what else? Tuesday, Luke Rudkowski. It's going to be a good one. So stay tuned. I shall see you in the locals community this afternoon. Hopefully we'll get a good video. Go. Enjoy the day. Peace out, peeps.